The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Reasonable. The silver wolf king shone brightly in the moonlight, and the moonlight coated on its body seemed to be shining itself. On the cliff, the wolf king's silver hair fluttered in the wind, like an exquisite work of art. However, Ren Xiaosu had no intention of appreciating it. He just wanted to run. Did the wolf pack leave the territory of barrier number 113? Didn't they enter the mountains hundreds of kilometers away? How could they suddenly appear here? The cliff was not far from here. It would only take about 10 minutes for the wolf pack to get here. What worried Ren Xiaosu the most was that the other wolves were still nowhere to be seen. What if they were approaching? Ren Xiaosu shouted, "Go, enter the canyon." Liu Bu was stunned. Enter the canyon? Are you crazy? Entering the canyon is not looking for death. If you don't enter the canyon, you will die now. Ren Xiaosu rushed to the pickup truck, grabbed the big rat that was still intact, and ran into the canyon. He was the person who dealt with the wolf pack the most, so he knew very well that if they didn't run, they would face a terrible opponent. Perhaps it was because the natural enemies of the wolves were cleared when the barrier cleared the wilderness, so the wolves can now move freely in the wilderness without fear. Ren Xiaosu looked back and was shocked to find that the people behind him actually had the energy to go to the campfire to get their luggage and load it into the car. It seemed that the wolves were still far away, so everyone was not particularly panicked. And Ren Xiaosu said that the wolves did not dare to enter the canyon, which also gave this group of people confidence. As long as they entered the canyon less than 10 meters away, everyone would be safe. Ren Xiaosu thought to himself that this group of people were really not afraid of death. At this time, they were still taking their clothes. At least they should take food and water first, right? At this time, Ren Xiaosu found that the most sober people in the whole team were him, Yang Xiaojun and Su Xianshu. Su Xianshu immediately went to the car to get the guns and ammunition, while Yang Xiaojun threatened a driver with a gun to get in the car and drive. But what could Ren Xiaosu do? He couldn't die with him. He ran into the canyon while looking at the cliffs on both sides. It seemed that although the cliffs were steep, they were not completely without leverage points for climbing. Ren Xiaosu observed this because he knew very well that he had told others that the wolves would not enter the canyon before, in order to conceal the truth about how he survived. But he knew very well that the wolves chased into the canyon at the beginning, and they didn't even hesitate. So the wolves will definitely chase in, and how to escape at that time will become a big problem. Cars are indeed a good means of transportation, but the problem is that nowadays it is hard to say whether cars can outrun wolves on flat ground, let alone on the gravel road in the canyon. A few days ago, a private army and a wolf pack had an encounter. Hundreds of soldiers with live ammunition were bitten to death by these wolves. The dozen or so of them are really not enough. There is a saying that goes, "You don't need to run faster than wolves, you just need to run faster than others," but these more than 10 people can't hold back the wolf pack. If they want to die, they will all die. So Ren Xiaosu didn't get in the car right away but went into the canyon. It wasn't that he was panicking, but he knew from the beginning that he couldn't escape even if he got in the car, so he had to find another way. If he had to, he could only climb up the cliff. No matter how powerful your wolf pack is, they can't climb the wall, right? Ren Xiaosu was not sure if he had enough physical strength to climb to the top, but this was the only way to survive. At this time, someone started the car and drove into the canyon with one foot on the accelerator. Now the car was not enough to sit, because the pickup truck was completely scrapped. At this time, they had seen the wolf pack appear at the edge of the forest. Everyone looked terrified. Those wild wolves were probably as tall as bison, and they seemed to be unhurt as they walked towards humans step by step. Liu Bu was so scared that he kept screaming, and even many soldiers in the private army turned pale. Those who had the heart to pack their luggage just now realized how stupid they were. If they hadn't packed their luggage, they would have entered the canyon now. "Wait, don't close the door." Someone shouted, "You can sit down if you squeeze in." But before the person who spoke could squeeze into the car, Liu Bu kicked him down and slammed the door shut. "Drive. Drive." Someone roared. Ren Xiaosu was extremely calm at this time. There was no right or wrong in this wilderness. Living was right and dying was wrong. All he could do was to make himself the last person to survive. Nothing more. The 4 intact cars drove into the canyon one after another, but the price was that 2 people were left behind and didn't have time to get in the car. Suddenly, 2 screams sounded outside the canyon. Ren Xiaosu's heart trembled. He realized that the wolves were faster than he thought. When the vehicles passed by Ren Xiaosu, a car stopped unexpectedly. Yang Xiaojun, who was sitting in the back seat of the vehicle, pointed a gun at the driver's head, then turned to Ren Xiaosu and said, "Get in the car." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Yang Xiaojun to use a gun to threaten the driver to stop the car, and he didn't even think about getting in the car. In this broken place, can a car outrun a wolf? At this time, Yang Xiaojun seemed to see that Ren Xiaosu didn't move, so he took out a black M9 pistol with his other hand and pointed it at Ren Xiaosu. "Get in the car." Ren Xiaosu. He turned his head to look outside the canyon, but he was stunned when he saw it. Yang Xiaojun looked back along his gaze and saw that the wolves stopped outside the canyon. Dozens of huge wild wolves were quietly looking inside at the mouth of the canyon, and their hair was still stained with blood. Liu Bu looked at the wolves in the car and said in a daze, "It turns out that they really don't dare to enter the canyon. We are saved." Everyone present felt like they had survived a disaster. They had escaped from the wolf's mouth. Some even cried, "We're saved." Liu Bu whispered, "I didn't expect this refugee kid didn't lie." But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu was not at ease at all, because he had lied to these people earlier, but he didn't expect these wild wolves to really stop. What does this mean? It means that this junction has really undergone some changes within a year, so the wolves suddenly stopped here. It also means that the junction behind this canyon must be more dangerous than imagined, and the 4 words "no living people allowed to enter" are definitely not a lie. What should we do? Someone got off the car and looked at the wild wolves outside the canyon and said, "Why don't we camp here and wait for the wolves to leave before we return the same way?" Ren Xiaosu thought to himself that he had never heard a more stupid suggestion than this. He said, "If you want to go back, you can go back. I will never go back the same way." Su Xianchu nodded solemnly and said, "That's right, there is no way back. In this case, the forest is the home ground of the wolves. You wait for them to leave? Where do you expect them to go? You have to know that there are still 3 days to get back to the fortress. These 3 days are enough time for the wolf pack to turn into werewolves and hang you up and beat you up. Of course, werewolves are impossible, it's just a metaphor." No one answered Su Xianchu, because everyone knew that no matter when you go back, you will die. The only way to survive is to go to the number 112 shelter fortress. There is no turning back. At this time, Liu Bu looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked, "Why are you carrying that mouse?" "Eat it," Ren Xiaosu said as a matter of course. "Don't eat it and save it for the new year." Liu Bu almost vomited. "Eat it." Ren Xiaosu said, "The food is all on the pickup truck, and the pickup truck is gone now. What else can I eat? And they eat my biscuits, so it's reasonable for me to eat them." Liu Bu. It sounds like it's really reasonable. In fact, Ren Xiaosu knew that one of the biggest problems this group of people faced now was food and water. However, although Ren Xiaosu disgusted Liu Bu, he really didn't eat the mouse himself. Chapter 52, Human-Faced Worm. For people in the fortress, such as Liu Bu and Luo Zinayu, rats are synonymous with filthiness. In traditional concepts, rats have always been creatures in the sewers, representing plague, disease, stench, etc. Although Ren Xiaosu does not eat rats, it is only because he has seen rats eating rotten corpses, so he has a very bad impression. But for other refugees in the market town, they naturally think that rats in the wilderness are food. These rats steal human food and even prey on other creatures, just like other wild animals. There is a shortage of supplies in the market town. They eat termites, let alone rats. In their eyes, rats are just a piece of meat that can walk. Compared with the bigwigs in the fortress, the refugees have a natural different understanding of food. The refugees think, anyway, anything that does not kill people is food. Now that the pickup truck is destroyed and the food is smashed to pieces by the soldiers of the private army, even if there is still edible food, everyone dares not go to get it in the face of wolves, so in the next period of time, starvation will inevitably become the norm. Ren Xiaosu is not afraid. No one can starve him in this wilderness. At this time, Ren Xiaosu looked at Yang Xiaojun. Before, the girl pointed a gun at the driver, and he thought that the girl wanted to save him. When she pointed at him, He realized that she just needed a guide to understand the environment in the wilderness. Yang Xiaojun also realized at the first time that food would be difficult to find in the future, and Ren Xiaosu had shown her talent in this area before, so she wanted to bring someone who could find food. As the saying goes, everyone has their own expertise. Being proficient in firearms does not necessarily mean being proficient in wilderness survival, and Ren Xiaosu is proficient in wilderness survival. Ren Xiaosu thought about it and didn't know what level his wilderness survival skills should be if they were turned into skills. He asked in his mind, "What is my wilderness survival level?" "It can be assessed, master level," Gong Gong answered straightforwardly. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He really could make an assessment. He didn't expect that his wilderness survival skills were actually at the master level. He looked so amazing. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu became more and more suspicious of Yang Xiaojun's identity. As a person in the barrier, this girl was decisive and never dragged her feet. It was still night, and everyone was very tired. The wolves didn't dare to enter the canyon, so they simply walked a few kilometers forward and stopped to rest. The reason they stopped was that on the one hand they wanted to discuss future countermeasures, and on the other hand everyone was a little afraid of what was behind the canyon. If they could delay passing through the canyon for a while, they would delay it for a while longer. "We can only move forward now," Su Xianchu said as he stood in the canyon. "This canyon is called Lao Fengkao. It looks calm now, but you have seen the power of the wind. I am not surprised that someone was blown out of the canyon. But there seems to be no wind in this canyon at night," Liu Bu asked in confusion. "There has been no wind since night. And parking the cars side by side to block the wind should not be a big problem. That won't work either. We must leave here before dawn. We can take a break now," Su Xianchu denied, "and we have no food. The most urgent thing is to get out of the canyon and find food. It doesn't look like there is food in this canyon." "I feel hungry when you say that," Liu Bu muttered in a low voice. At night everyone gathered around the campfire. Because of fear, no one had much appetite, but now it had been 5 or 6 hours since dinner time, and escaping was so physically and mentally exhausting, so everyone felt hungry. "If I had known, I should have gone to get food first," someone complained. "Although the pickup truck was beaten beyond recognition, at least there is something to eat. What should we do now? We still have nearly half a month to travel. What should we eat and drink?" Liu Bu asked. With this question, everyone turned their eyes to Ren Xiaosu, because in their impression, Ren Xiaosu was very good at surviving in the wild. Wasn't a big fish caught by Ren Xiaosu before? However, Ren Xiaosu pointed to the mouse at his feet and said, "Are you eating this?" The others remained silent. In fact, when there really had no other options, they would have to eat even mice. This was reality. In fact, everyone in the team knew that Ren Xiaosu definitely didn't want to help them find food. After all, the team didn't provide food to Ren Xiaosu before, not only isolating Ren Xiaosu, but also deliberately making fun of or embarrassing Ren Xiaosu. Now they want him to help them find food? Some people suddenly began to blame Liu Bu in their hearts. "What's wrong with giving Ren Xiaosu some of the food in your car? Is it okay now?" They didn't think about it. Although they didn't say anything at that time, they were all laughing when Liu Bu refused to provide food for Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu sneered in his heart, "Let's do it on our own. Take a break. At dawn, we will go directly through the canyon," Su Xianchu decided. "After we get out of the canyon, everyone should be careful. First make sure there is no danger and then talk about food. Everyone will not starve to death in a day or two." When the market town was short of food, Ren Xiaosu really saw people eating tree bark and tree roots. After eating tree bark and roots, they ate soil and eventually died. Ren Xiaosu knew very well what people would become in the face of hunger. At this time, they didn't eat mice, but in 2 days they would want to eat soil. At this time, Yang Xiaojun came to Ren Xiaosu and handed him a dagger. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "Give it to me." "Lend it to you," Yang Xiaojun said. "Conditions?" Ren Xiaosu asked. These two people were very straightforward. There is no love or hate without reason in this world. Yang Xiaojun must have a reason to lend his dagger to Ren Xiaosu. "Food," Yang Xiaojun said. "It's not enough to just lend it to me," Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "You have to give it to me." "Okay," Yang Xiaojun said, and turned away. This made Ren Xiaosu stunned for a moment. In fact, Yang Xiaojun originally planned to use the dagger as a condition for exchange. When she said she would lend it to him at the beginning, she just left some room for negotiation. Ren Xiaosu was a little amused and helpless. He must think more about dealing with Yang Xiaojun in the future. He observed the dagger. He didn't need to know much about knives to see that this dagger was better than all the iron tools he had seen in Lao Wang's grocery store before. Ren Xiaosu put the dagger back into the sheath and hid it in his sleeve, but suddenly Ren Xiaosu's face changed drastically. He looked up at the sky above the cliff, and the others followed suit. "What's up there?" As soon as the voice fell, there was a dense sound of shells rubbing in the canyon. Su Xianchu took a strong flashlight and shone it towards the top of his head. He suddenly saw countless black tides crawling down the cliff. No one had ever seen this insect before. The patterns on its back carapace looked like human faces. The black insect's mouth opened and closed as if it had received some command, and it rushed towards the crowd below the cliff. Some of them even jumped directly from the sky to Ren Xiaosu and the others. Ren Xiaosu drew out his dagger and chopped the huge insect that pounced on him, then shouted, "Run!" "What is this?" Liu Bu was almost scared out of his wits. Thank you, classmate UK, for becoming the new ally of this book. I don't know why I didn't thank the leader in the previous few chapters. I don't know which great man didn't even let the readers thank him. Chapter 53: A Clear Conscience. Ren Xiaosu had been in the wilderness for so many years, and he had never seen or even heard of these human-faced insects. Normally, Ren Xiaosu was very calm when facing ants and termites, because when you don't smell of blood, the big ants nowadays actually won't have any special interest in you. But these human-faced insects are very scary, and they are clearly going to eat people. This canyon is usually so windy, and no one knows where these human-faced insects usually hide. Now they come out in full force when they see prey. Are those wolves afraid of these things? If Ren Xiaosu knew there were so many human-faced insects in this canyon, he would never come in. This time, he didn't even care about the mice. He wanted to climb the cliff before, but now he should be thankful that he was a little slow, otherwise he might have encountered this thing in the air above the cliff, and he would really die. "Get in the car!" Su Xianchu shouted to everyone. Ren Xiaosu chopped two human-faced insects that pounced on him in succession. The insects opened their mouth parts in mid-air. Their claws were not sharp, but their mouth parts were like hooks that could hook people's lives. This time Ren Xiaosu did not run away, because being in the car was the safest, so he got into the car while everyone was panicking. Not only did he get in by himself, but he also brought a driver with him. Ren Xiaosu himself could not drive, so he could not leave without a driver. He threw the driver into the driver's seat and shouted, "Drive, drive quickly." The driver looked back innocently. "This is not my car, I don't have the key to this car." Damn it. Ren Xiaosu felt that he had really suffered from never driving a car before. He didn't even know the common sense of one car and one key. But he didn't hesitate, and got out of the car again with the driver. Ren Xiaosu yelled, "Which one is yours?" The driver was almost confused by being carried back and forth by Ren Xiaosu. He pointed at a car in the chaotic crowd and said, "That one." Ren Xiaosu carried the driver and went to that car. At this time, everyone else was running for their lives. Some people escaped to the car, some did not get in the car and ran to the front of the canyon, and some even ran towards the wolf pack. At the critical moment of life and death, some untrained band staff had never seen such a scene before, and they had long lost their normal thinking ability. At this moment, a voice rang in Ren Xiaosu's mind, "Mission, rescue at least 10 people from the canyon. I'll save your sister." Ren Xiaosu continued to carry the driver and ran towards the car. Anyway, there was no punishment if he didn't complete the mission. I didn't care about this mission. My life was more important. Until this time, he suddenly found that there was someone following him. He looked back and saw that the person following him was Yang Xiaojun, a perfect level gunmaster. The other party seemed to be holding something in his hand, but Ren Xiaosu didn't have time to look carefully. This girl was determined to follow Ren Xiaosu to escape. It seemed that in her opinion, only by following Ren Xiaosu could she survive. Ren Xiaosu could not care less. He came to the side of the vehicle and opened the door. There was a soldier from the private army trembling in the driver's seat. Ren Xiaosu pulled him out of the car in a bad mood. "What are you doing here without the car keys?" Exclamation mark. Waiting to die? At this moment, two human-faced bugs tried to get in through Ren Xiaosu's trouser legs. As a result, They were smashed to pieces by Yang Xiaojun's 2 shots as soon as they approached Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu jumped into the back seat of the SUV, and Yang Xiaojun followed. Ren Xiaosu yelled at the driver, who had been confused for a long time, "Drive, why are you standing there?" The driver had completely fallen into a mechanical state. When Ren Xiaosu yelled at him, he hurriedly inserted the key to start the ignition. The car didn't move much even after he stepped on the accelerator. At this time, the driver realized that he had not removed the handbrake. He hurriedly removed the handbrake and drove forward. Ren Xiaosu heaved a sigh of relief at this time. Although the car could not outrun the wolf, it could outrun the human-faced worms. There were 2 cars ahead and they had already driven a distance away. Several people behind them were submerged by the human-faced worms. The black worm tide covered the people in distress. Those people twisted their bodies and tried to struggle, but it was in vain. The chewing sound came from the black worm tide. The blood and meat were minced into meat paste in the sharp mouth parts. Ren Xiaosu is silent. So this is the real wilderness? This is the world that humans will face in the future. Those strange human-faced worms were attracted by the blood and flesh, and they stopped chasing the car. Ren Xiaosu leaned weakly on the seat and panted. He had exercised a lot just now, and now he was a little exhausted. Even he couldn't easily carry an adult around. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Yang Xiaojun, who was sitting in the car calmly, and said, "You're quite strong." Ren Xiaosu ignored her and looked at the driver. "Are there no bugs chasing us?" "No." The driver slowly came to his senses after surviving the disaster. He was no longer numb and had some consciousness. He kept muttering in the driver's seat, "Thank you. I might not have survived without you. Thanks from Sun Junzheng, +1. Ren Xiaosu thought that his gratitude points had finally reached 74, and it was not in vain to carry a person around. He thought for a while and said, "Don't thank me too much. I just want you to drive. It's okay. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry for what happened before. Don't worry, I will repay you," Sun Junzheng said. Thanks from Sun Junzheng, +1. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Can you thank me repeatedly for the same thing? Maybe it was because of the life-saving grace, and Sun Junzheng was in a state of shock, so every thank you was sincere. Ren Xiaosu tried to say, "Come and say thank you again." Sun Junzheng choked for a long time, and his emotions were instantly incoherent. Yang Xiaojun looked at Ren Xiaosu with a strange look. He was still not out of danger. This young man was too ambitious. Ren Xiaosu waited for a long time but didn't get the 76th thank you. He felt that he might be too impatient. If he could be patient and reserved for a while, he might be able to get a few more. But people can't be too greedy. Just stop when it's enough. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu saw Yang Xiaojun's abnormal expression from the corner of his eye. He cleared his throat and said, "Ahem, I was just joking. Before those human-faced bugs catch up, let's quickly escape from the canyon and meet up with the car in front." At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly thought of the task issued by the palace just now. He didn't feel embarrassed. In that situation, he would never sacrifice himself to save others. Just like he said to Yan Luan, "If you feel guilty, then convince yourself not to feel guilty." What's more, he has a clear conscience about this matter. But suddenly, Ren Xiaosu heard the palace in his mind say, "Mission completed, reward 1.0 strength." What's going on? Does it mean that as long as he saves someone and the team has more than 10 people alive, the mission is completed? Your palace is really casual. Chapter 54 Escape. Ren Xiaosu was surprised that he had completed the task, because he had never intended to complete the task. It seemed that the palace wanted him to become stronger, otherwise Wang Fu would be so sincere in thanking his 8 generations of ancestors. Ren Xiaosu's strength had reached 6.5, officially twice that of a normal adult. Of course, this normal range probably only refers to the average value. Some people who have undergone high-intensity training are not on this normal range. The convoy quickly passed a canyon and drove forward. Just now, someone fled to the wolf pack in a panic and was bitten to death by the wolf pack. The human-faced insects that chased them were also a bit strange. They were unwilling to step out of the canyon at all. They slowly retreated to the edge of the canyon. The wolf pack and the human-faced insects, 2 species in the wilderness, coexisted in a unique way, just like well water and river water. The wolf pack looked at the wolf king, and the wolf king turned and slowly walked into the woods, as if once it was sure that the prey had been lost, it would never linger, and it was straightforward. The driver, Sun Junzheng, said as he drove, "I don't know how many people survived this time." "It's enough for us to survive," Ren Xiaosu replied. As for whether others could survive, it was not within his consideration. In this wilderness, it would be better to have more people. After all, there is strength in numbers, and everyone can take care of each other if something happens. But what Ren Xiaosu saw now, the actions of those private troops and band staff proved that these people were definitely not people who could be trusted. Not only could they not be trusted, but they might even be killed by them if they were not careful. "Look, there are so many corpses here," Sun Junzhang suddenly shouted. Just as the vehicle passed through the canyon, they saw dozens of human skeletons on the side of the road, lying in strange shapes in the canyon. "I'm afraid this was all done by the human-faced worm," Ren Xiaosu said calmly. Now Ren Xiaosu recalled the human-faced worm. He was one of the calmest people at the time, so he was still able to observe the human-faced worms carefully while retreating to the vehicle. In his memory, not every human-faced worm had a human face on its carapace. Was it because it was not fully developed? Or is it because this insect eats humans that it grows human faces on its shell? In such a strange place, Ren Xiaosu subconsciously guessed in the most horrifying direction. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu broke out in a cold sweat. Why did it feel like this human-faced insect had eaten the souls of some dead people, and the souls of those dead people were showing their hideous faces on the carapace of the human-faced insect? The convoy originally had 6 vehicles, but now there were only 3 left. It took them more than 10 minutes to completely cross the canyon. When the vehicles drove out of the canyon, Ren Xiaosu, Yang Xiaojun, and Sun Junzhang were all stunned. It was still night, and the canyon was dark and obscure, with only light in the range of the car lights. But the starry sky outside the canyon was like a painting hanging overhead, as if it was right in front of him, and the vegetation on the ground was extremely dense, and there were many fireflies flying around in the woods. The mountains surrounding here seemed to have intentionally enclosed a huge garden here, like a fairyland. They slowly got out of the car and looked at everything in the night. Sun Junzhang involuntarily walked towards the woods with a look of longing on his face. As a result, Ren Xiaosu slapped him in the face. "How dare you go into this weird forest casually?" For these big men in the fortress, beauty is attractive, but for Ren Xiaosu, the beauty in nature is inherently full of danger. They must understand that the more beautiful the snake is, the more dangerous it may be, the more beautiful the mushroom is, the more poisonous it may be, and the more gorgeous the spider is, the more deadly it may be. So Ren Xiaosu is naturally resistant to beautiful things. He calls the beauty in the wilderness weird. Everyone in the car has gotten off. Ren Xiaosu looked over and found that Su Xianshu, as the first person to react, really survived. What surprised him was that Liu Bu also survived. Ren Xiaosu didn't want Liu Bu to die, but he was a little puzzled. How did this contestant who could only scream and shout when frightened survive? And Luo Zinayu also survived. Ren Xiaosu remembered that Luo Zinayu approached Su Xianshu as soon as the human-faced worm appeared. She probably survived under Su Xianshu's leadership. Su Xianshu looked solemnly and checked the number of people. Only 11 people are left. There were 20 people when they came, and now there are only 11 people left before they reach Jingshan. It's hard to say what will happen on the road ahead, and it's hard to say how many people can finally walk out of Jingshan. I told you to turn back, but you insisted on entering this canyon. There are extraordinary people who said that living people are not allowed to enter. Why don't you listen? Liu Bu complained. Shut up, Luo Zinayu said coldly. Liu Bu seemed to be a little more courageous at this time, and even mocked his boss Luo Zinayu. I told you not to take risks outside the barrier, but you didn't listen. Are you satisfied now? Luo Zinayu's face was livid. You said you fully agreed at the beginning. How dare I say I don't agree? Liu Bu retorted. Su Xianshu frowned and said to Liu Bu, what's the point of saying this now? Why don't you go back to find the wolf pack? We also had to enter the canyon out of necessity. It's good luck that everyone can survive. Stop arguing. The most important thing for us now is to work together to overcome the difficulties. Liu Bu and Luo Zinayu also quieted down. Ren Xiaosu felt that he had to find another way out. The morale of the team had been scattered, and the so-called working together was just empty talk. The car could no longer be driven. No one expected that the plants here would grow almost like a subtropical rainforest, and it was completely impossible to pass the car. Let's take a rest first, Su Xianchu said tiredly. They didn't have a good rest at night. One danger after another came, and everyone was really on the verge of collapse. Ren Xiaosu pretended to be very tired and sat on the ground, far away from the woods. At this time, not only did everyone have no food, but also no tents and blankets. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt a little regretful. He actually forgot to bring the rat in the car. He didn't know if the human-faced worm would turn into a rat-faced worm after eating the rat meat. Thinking about it this way, it didn't seem so painful, and he even had some expectations. Sir, Luo Zinai looked at Su Xianchu and asked, "What is your mission in Jingshan?" Ren Xiaosu looked at Su Xianchu. This was also the confusion in his heart. Su Xianchu hesitated for a while and still didn't tell everything he knew. However, Ren Xiaosu found that Su Xianchu himself seemed to have doubts in his heart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55: A Brief Alliance. Su Xianchu never said what their mission was, and band members like Liu Bu and Luo Zinai obviously didn't know, otherwise they wouldn't have asked Su Xianchu like that. Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. What was the connection between Su Xianchu's mission and the changes in Jingshan? Su Xianchu suddenly said, "In fact, we didn't expect such a big change here, otherwise there wouldn't be only 12 people. What I can tell you clearly is that we don't know what happened here. Now it's not certain whether everyone can get out alive. Why can't you share your secrets with us?" Liu Bu was on the verge of collapse. He just wanted to know what situation he was in now, so he was unwilling to give up any clues. He gritted his teeth and said to Su Xianchu, "We are all on the same boat now. If you don't tell us, maybe this secret will be buried with us in the grave." Seeing that Liu Bu's face was about to touch Su Xianchu's face, spitting everywhere, Su Xianchu pushed Liu Bu away. "You guys came here on your own, so why do you blame us? I heard that you always wanted to go to other barriers, right? Even if we didn't have this mission, you wouldn't go? Now you leave it all alone, as if we brought you here to die." Ren Xiaosu was watching the fun, and he was just short of a handful of peanuts, but Yang Xiaojun next to him suddenly said, "I'm hungry." This made Ren Xiaosu stunned. "What did you tell me when you were hungry?" Yang Xiaojun said, "Dagger." Ren Xiaosu nodded quickly. "Please sit down, I'll get you food now. Do you have any dietary restrictions?" "No." Yang Xiaojun sat on the ground, and Luo Zinai had to put a piece of clothing underneath her when she sat on the ground, but she didn't care at all. But Ren Xiaosu was a little melancholy now, because he lost the mouse he was carrying. At that time, he had to carry the driver in one hand and the dagger in the other, so he couldn't carry the mouse at all, so now the food was a little difficult to find. The dense forest in front of him was really strange. It was impossible to see the situation inside at night. He had to wait until the day to observe carefully before he dared to go in to find food. As a result, Yang Xiaojun saw that he was a little worried and suddenly said, "I threw the rat in the trunk." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He vaguely remembered that Yang Xiaojun seemed to be holding something in his hand in the chaos, but he was in a hurry and didn't take a closer look. It turned out that the other party was holding the big rat. It must be said that Yang Xiaojun's preparation really saved Ren Xiaosu a lot of trouble. In the past, Ren Xiaosu always went alone in the wilderness and never looked for help, so he had to face all the dangers and difficulties alone. In fact, someone in the market town also approached him and wanted to go out hunting together, but Ren Xiaosu refused. It was not that the other party was not capable enough, but that he didn't trust the other party. It was easy to get tired in the wilderness. At this time, it was better to be with wild animals than with people. Ren Xiaosu had thought about training Yan Liuan, so that he could share a lot of pressure with him, but then he gave up after thinking about it. Ren Xiaosu didn't want Yan Liuan to be in danger. Now, for the first time, Ren Xiaosu felt that he had a helper. But Ren Xiaosu threw this idea out of his mind. The two of them were now in a trading relationship. Because they trusted each other's abilities or resources, they formed a short-term alliance in the wilderness. This alliance was even just a silent agreement, but in fact, everyone did not trust each other, they just took what they needed. Ren Xiaosu went to the car and took out a big rat. At this time, Everyone else was very hungry, but they were not so hungry that they would eat anything. So when they saw Ren Xiaosu carrying the rat, they felt a little nauseous when they thought that Ren Xiaosu was going to eat it. The others were talking about what to do. Yang Xiaojun had already picked up firewood and was preparing to make a fire. Ren Xiaosu whispered, "When you leave the forest, you must face the forest and retreat." Yang Xiaojun raised her eyebrows. Why? Because the desire of large cats to attack will be stimulated. I feel that they can't even control themselves. That is the instinct of cats, Ren Xiaosu explained. There are actually many wild cats in the wilderness. Mr. Zhang said that those wild cats may be the descendants of domestic cats before the disaster. Because they have no owners and can only grow freely in the wild, their temperaments are getting wilder and wilder. Moreover, these wild cats are getting bigger and bigger, and their lethality is amazing. Is it dangerous? Yang Xiaojun asked. Yes, it is very dangerous, but they may not attack you when you face them, so don't turn your back to the forest. No one knows what is hidden in the forest, Ren Xiaosu said. Perhaps because Ren Xiaosu also wanted to temporarily maintain this short-lived alliance to increase his chances of survival, he talked to Yang Xiaojun a few more words. Ren Xiaosu took the dagger and started cutting the rat. To be honest, he originally planned to use the rat meat to catch centipedes. Compared with rat meat, Ren Xiaosu felt that roasted centipedes seemed to be more delicious. But now there was no other way. After the incident with the human-faced worm, Ren Xiaosu was really worried that he would catch something weird again. He quickly cut off the two thick hind legs of the rat. Ren Xiaosu handed the two hind legs to Yang Xiaojun to roast on the fire. In less than 10 seconds, the aroma of meat drifted more than 10 meters away. Originally, Liu Bu and the others were discussing enthusiastically, but now they all swallowed their saliva when they smelled the meat. They also forgot what they had discussed before. Everyone turned their heads to look at Ren Xiaosu quietly, but at this time, they saw Ren Xiaosu throw the remaining rat meat into the forest with a flick of his hand. Now Ren Xiaosu felt that he was extremely powerful, and the remaining meat disappeared in the blink of an eye. Liu Bu was anxious. Why did you throw it away? You are not going to eat it, leaving it here to attract wild animals. Ren Xiaosu glanced at them unhappily. If you want to eat it, go pick it up yourself. Liu Bu was stunned for a long time and sneered, I will not eat such disgusting things. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, that's because you haven't eaten more disgusting things. Hey, no, these people have obviously eaten more disgusting things. In Ren Xiaosu's opinion, people in your fortress even eat things like birds' nests. What is rat meat? Ren Xiaosu heard from Mr. Zhang in the school that many big figures in the fortress like to eat birds' nests. I don't know where the swallows get so much phlegm. Maybe they have tuberculosis? No wonder there is an idiom called tuberculosis swallows flying around. It turns out to be about this. However, he didn't say much to these people. The skinned fat rat meat was quickly roasted on the fire until it was browned. Liu Bu and the others didn't discuss it, and just swallowed their saliva beside them. Everyone was busy all night, and because of fear, no one had much appetite at dinner. After a night of escape, everyone was almost exhausted and hungry. Some people wanted to go to the forest to pick up the remaining rat meat, but the problem was that Ren Xiaosu threw it too far. Chapter 56 New Skills. Ren Xiaosu threw away all the remaining rat meat. It seemed that he had no intention of sharing it with others, and he didn't even think it was a pity to throw away the rat meat. Liu Buxin said, even if you don't give it to others, will you not eat tomorrow? However, Ren Xiaosu thought differently. He would rather find food tomorrow or even go hungry than keep the strong smell of blood around him. At this time, Yang Xiaojun looked at the roasted rat meat quietly, holding a small salt shaker in his hand. Just looking at him, he couldn't imagine that the other party would be a gun master who would use a gun to talk when he disagreed. Hey, Ren Xiaosu remembered at this time that when he completed the task of refusing to go with Jingshan, the palace rewarded him with a basic learning map, which has not been used until now. The main reason is that there is no target to learn in the market town. Now isn't there a target to learn next to you? Although this is a basic map, it can no longer help me improve my gun skills, but the problem is that people like Yang Xiaojun must have other outstanding features, right? The basic level atlas didn't seem to be that difficult to obtain. Ren Xiaosu felt that he could learn more life-saving skills from Yang Xiaojun. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked in his mind, can you list all of Yang Xiaojun's skills for me? He wanted to see what other valuable skills Yang Xiaojun had, and then make a final decision. No permission to display, Gong Gong replied stiffly. Hey, haven't I already learned her skills? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. No permission to display, Gong Gong replied stiffly again. Ren Xiaosu thought about it and asked in a different way, then what level is her fighting skills? Advanced, Gong Gong said. Ren Xiaosu understood that the palace could only ask about a skill in a targeted way, such as asking if she had fighting skills or medical skills, and the palace would answer him. But if he asked the palace to say all the target skills, the palace would ignore him. This thing is all guesswork. Then what level is my fighting skills? Ren Xiaosu asked. Intermediate, Gong Gong said. His fighting skills were just the experience gained from years of fighting with others, and he had not carefully sorted them out to form a theory. For him, he knew best where to hit others to be fatal, but compared to Yang Xiaojun, what he mastered was not scientific and specific enough, and he relied on intuition. Therefore, Yang Xiaojun's was advanced, while his was intermediate. However, if they really fought, it would still depend on the physical fitness of both parties. If Yang Xiaojun's strength and agility were not as good as Ren Xiaosu's, or the difference was far, it would be useless even if she had a higher level of fighting skills. Ren Xiaosu observed Yang Xiaojun and saw that Yang Xiaojun was not strong, so she should not be as strong as him, right? Advanced fighting skills. This thing made Ren Xiaosu very tempted, because he understood the importance of this skill. As long as he learned advanced fighting skills, not only would he be more confident when facing humans, but if he met a master-level fighting skill owner in the future, he could directly use the master-level learning map, because mastering an advanced skill is the key to using the master-level learning map. Without this key, he could not learn even if the other person had a master level. Use the learning map. After Ren Xiaosu said this to Gong Dian in his mind, he waited secretly, praying in his heart that it must be an advanced fighting skill, it must be an advanced fighting skill. The next moment, Gong Dian said, the opponent's advanced skill has been randomly drawn, skipping rubber bands, do you want to learn it? Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yang Xiaojun in a daze. He didn't expect that you, a perfect level gun master with a handsome face, actually have a unique skill like skipping rubber bands. What the hell is skipping rubber bands? How can you draw such a skill? Question mark. Yang Xiaojun seemed to feel Ren Xiaosu's gaze, turned his head and looked at him calmly. When will the meat be roasted? Ren Xiaosu was in a bad mood at that time. What the hell, can his learning map be reliable? The previous tricks and bragging are fine, but how come skipping rubber bands came out, and how can this skill have levels? Can you tell me how to jump rubber bands at an advanced level? Do you jump while doing a backflip? Question mark. Ren Xiaosu said with a dark face, in the wilderness, food must be roasted for a while longer, and the same applies to water. It must be boiled for more than 10 minutes before drinking. At this time, Ren Xiaosu saw Yang Xiaojun raised her wrist, revealing the watch on her wrist. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He had seen watches before, but he also knew that this thing seemed to be only carried by big people in the refuge. Ren Xiaosu asked, aren't you afraid of getting sick after eating things in the wilderness? Yang Xiaojun said calmly, only by surviving can you get sick. After that, she picked up the small salt bottle and sprinkled salt on the rat meat. Liu Bu and others beside her had already drooled. When they were discussing things before, they didn't feel particularly hungry. Now the fragrance rushed towards them. Liu Bu and others just felt as if their stomachs were vacuumed and deflated. Did anyone bring some food? Su Xianchu asked. No, everyone shook their heads. Ren Xiaosu laughed when he heard this. He had clearly seen someone carrying some food before, but now those who carried food all tacitly denied it. It seems that everyone present understands that the food they have hidden on their bodies can save lives. How can you share something that can save lives with others? Moreover, Ren Xiaosu suddenly discovered that many private army soldiers here didn't know where to throw away their guns. Such life-saving things can be discarded in the chaos, just to run faster? Too stupid. The star in the barrier, Luo Zinayu, was unhappy. How can we survive without food? Why don't you bring food? A private army soldier sneered, you didn't bring it either. At this moment, Luo Zinayu subconsciously took a step back, because she found that some men around her had an inexplicable malice in their eyes. She is a star in the refuge barrier. Luo Zinayu is not only exquisite and beautiful, but also has a very good figure. When summer comes in the barrier, Her favorite thing to wear is a short skirt, exposing her straight thighs to the air. And those people in the barrier can only watch from a distance, but they can only watch because there is still civilization there. But now she is in the wilderness, and many people in the team suddenly fell into kind of despair. They don't know if they can get out alive. In this situation, the evil in the heart began to magnify. There is no civilization, no law, no morality. Maybe no one knows what happened here. Luo Zinayu subconsciously moved towards Ren Xiaosu. Even she herself didn't expect that when fear rose in her heart, she actually chose to trust the refugee who looked most like a beast instead of her teammates. Thanks to the Elbow Black Idiot Group Shanine and the Elbow Black Idiot Group Lulu for becoming the new leaders of this book. The two black fans actually formed an alliance. Chapter 57 The Extraordinary One. Seeing the atmosphere in the team getting more and more weird, Su Xianchu said coldly, "Look at what you have become. The most important thing for us now is to find food and then get out of here. Do you all want to die here?" Liu Bu laughed and said, "Yes, we have to work together now." At a certain moment just now, Liu Bu also had an evil thought flashing through his mind, but he suddenly realized that he actually didn't have many teammates. If something dirty really happened here, and everyone really got out alive, these private army soldiers would definitely kill all the survivors outside the private army. Where can we find food? Someone complained, "Do you dare to enter this forest now? Anyway, I won't go in." Su Xianchu looked at Ren Xiaosu. "You are the one who knows the most about wilderness survival. Come and help everyone find food." Suddenly, the palace in Ren Xiaosu's mind said, "Mission, help the team find food." Find food? Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment, then pointed at a private soldier next to Su Xianchu and said, "I saw him take food from the pickup truck before entering the canyon. It should be in his backpack." The soldier was confused. "We asked you to find food in the wilderness. Why are you looking for food from me?" Exclamation mark. Mission completed. Reward basic skill learning map. Ren Xiaosu was happy. Anyway, the palace said to find food, but didn't say where to find it, right? Everyone's food is food. He really likes the way this palace judges tasks more and more. Su Xianchu looked at the soldier next to him. "Bring out the food." "Why should I bring out the food?" The soldier got angry on the spot. "What were you doing when I went to get the food? You went to get clothes, got tents, and that celebrity even got her own makeup bag. Why should I give you food now?" Ren Xiaosu said, "That makes sense." Everyone turned and looked at him silently. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu supported this contestant. On the one hand, he felt that the others were not doing their job. You didn't take the food yourself, but now you are asking others to share it with you. This is moral kidnapping. On the other hand, Ren Xiaosu was just here to watch the fun and was not afraid of trouble. Anyway, they were not good people. No one paid attention to Ren Xiaosu at this time. Luo Zinayu just wanted to sit next to Ren Xiaosu, but was pushed away by Ren Xiaosu. So Luo Zinayu sat next to Yang Xiaojin, but the relationship between Yang Xiaojin and Luo Zinayu seemed to be just that of an employer and an employee. At this time, she no longer pretended to be anything, and ignored Luo Zinayu and only focused on eating her own rat meat. She always held the gun, but it seemed that everything had nothing to do with her. Su Xianchu looked at the soldier who hid the food and said, "Hand over the food. Since we are working together to overcome the difficulties, we can't have too many selfish thoughts. We will naturally find food after dawn, and you won't starve to death. Who knows if you will be alive tomorrow," the soldier said. "Besides, I'm not the only one who took the food. Li Meioxin and Zhang Yang also took the food. Why should I take it out?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he heard the name Li Meioxin. It turned out that there was such a sloppy name in the barrier? Exclamation mark. But the most important thing at this moment was that the atmosphere in the team was about to freeze. Unexpectedly, the teammates who had just survived the disaster immediately started an internal conflict because of a little food. Su Xianchu said kindly, "I'm doing this for the good of the whole team." The soldier next to him sneered, "You're still showing off your authority here? You have a gun, and I have one too." As he was about to draw his gun from his waist, Su Xianchu suddenly raised his leg and kicked the man who was talking in the chest, kicking him a few meters away. No one expected Su Xianchu to do it suddenly, and just one kick almost crippled a person. Ren Xiaosu roughly estimated that his physical fitness should be able to do this now, and he might even be stronger than Su Xianchu. Thinking of this, He felt a little relieved. The soldier who was kicked might not be able to walk out of the forest alive. Su Xianchu's kick was very heavy, and it must have caused him internal injuries. From today on, he can only walk in the forest with internal injuries. This injury will make him more and more tired, and eventually drag him down in the forest. It seems that Su Xianchu wants to use someone to establish his authority, even if doing so may lead to another reduction in the team. But before Su Xianchu could retract his legs, another soldier behind him attacked. This soldier pulled out a bayonet from his waist and stabbed Su Xianchu. He seemed to want to stab Su Xianchu to death while Su Xianchu was dealing with others. This time, even Yang Xiaojin stopped eating meat. If Su Xianchu was stabbed, he would definitely die. Wait. Ren Xiaosu actually saw an identical shadow separated from Su Xianchu's body. The gray shadow was like a replica of Su Xianchu. At first, Ren Xiaosu thought he was dazzled, but he immediately reacted, superhuman. Su Xianchu was actually a superhuman. No wonder Su Xianchu continued to move forward after seeing strange things before. It turned out that he had something to rely on. Ren Xiaosu had long felt that something was wrong. No matter how much Su Xianchu wanted to complete the task, no matter how worried he was about being expelled as a refugee, he shouldn't have risked his life. It turned out that Su Xianchu was not risking his life, he just had a secret. When facing the sneak attack of the bayonet, the gray shadow suddenly turned around. It held the bayonet tightly like a real person. The speed of this gray shadow was faster and more powerful than Su Xianchu's body. Moreover, the gray shadow seemed to be not afraid of sharp weapons and actually grabbed the bayonet with bare hands. In a flash, the soldier holding the bayonet was already in a state of confusion. He did not expect that he was facing an extraordinary person, nor did he expect that the other party would dare to grab the bayonet with bare hands. Just when the soldier was distracted, the gray shadow grabbed the bayonet with both hands and pierced the soldier's abdomen fiercely. There was already silence in the camp, leaving only the nervous breathing of everyone. The soldier slowly fell to the ground. Under the night sky, the purple blood seeped into the soil and turned black. However, this injury was not fatal on the spot. The soldier who fell to the ground was still gasping. The soldier who was kicked to the ground just now struggled to take out his pistol and raise his hand to start shooting, but a shocking scene happened. The gray shadow actually blocked in front of Su Xianchu and completely blocked all the bullets. The gray shadow was shaking, and the bullets that had hit its body fell to the ground. Some people wanted to accuse Su Xianchu of killing his compatriots, but they didn't dare to speak out. Everyone looked at Su Xianchu in shock. Is this ability to replicate an identical shadow? However, this shadow is obviously more powerful than Su Xianchu himself. Moreover, this gray shadow can't even be shot through by a gun. Is this a true extraordinary person? Ren Xiaosu thought about it, and he found that Su Xianchu's face looked a little ugly. Does this mean that the gray shadow's resistance to bullets still has an impact on the main body? The two Su Xianchu looked around, and then the gray shadow slowly walked towards Su Xianchu's main body, and finally stepped into Su Xianchu's back and disappeared. Chapter 58 I Brought Money. During this journey, Ren Xiaosu had guessed that if anyone in the team was the most likely to be a supernatural being, it would definitely be Yang Xiaojin. But what he didn't expect now was that Su Xianchu was the one who hid the most. As for Yang Xiaojin, Ren Xiaosu at least knew some information about her and knew that she was actually a dangerous person. As for Su Xianchu, Ren Xiaosu had never taken her seriously before. However, this was also because Su Xianchu's supernatural ability was easy to hide. Although the gray shadow was extremely strong, Su Xianchu himself was still an ordinary soldier, which made it impossible for Ren Xiaosu to judge. It was a pity that at this time, it would be better to have a master-level skill learning map, otherwise he could use it on Su Xianchu immediately. If he was really lucky enough to copy Su Xianchu's skills, then Ren Xiaosu would have more trump cards along the way. It's just that the palace has been open for so long, and Ren Xiaosu has never seen a master-level skill learning map. It must be very difficult to get one. At this time, Su Xianchu sighed and said, I just want to lead everyone out, and I don't want to hurt anyone. Ren Xiaosu watched from the side. He couldn't tell whether Su Xianchu was sincere in what he said. In fact, he didn't have any bad feelings towards Su Xianchu. When Liu Bu and others isolated him before, Su Xianchu didn't follow the others. Of course, Ren Xiaosu didn't have any good feelings towards him. If the arguing soldier hadn't wanted to draw his gun just now, Su Xianchu probably wouldn't have done it. Ren Xiaosu turned his head to look at Yang Xiaojun. He found that Yang Xiaojun had returned to his previous calm appearance, as if he was not very interested in the extraordinary people. Aren't you curious? Ren Xiaosu asked. Curiosity, Yang Xiaojun said calmly. Ren Xiaosu was speechless. This curiosity was too perfunctory. Suddenly Su Xianchu looked at Ren Xiaosu. Aren't you a doctor? Check their injuries. Wang Konggyang told me about your condition before I came. Don't pretend anymore. Oh, Ren Xiaosu patted his butt and stood up. He walked to the soldier who was stabbed and squatted down. He turned to Su Xianchu and said, but there is no medicine in this wilderness. His injury must be quite serious. At this time, the soldier asked palely, how long can I live? Ren Xiaosu thought for a while. 10 minutes. The soldier was stunned. Ren Xiaosu looked at him seriously. 9, 8, 7. Soldier. I avoided the vital parts and internal organs. Don't scare him, Su Xianchu said. I heard from Wang Konggyang that you have a very useful medicine for treating wounds. I don't believe you didn't bring it with you when you came to the wilderness. Ren Xiaosu was unhappy. My medicine is very expensive. You pay? I am your guide, not your accompanying doctor. If you want to be an accompanying doctor, you have to pay more. Don't mention it. Ren Xiaosu really carried 2 small porcelain bottles filled with black medicine. Su Xianchu was stunned for a moment. I lost my money on the road. He turned his eyes to others, thinking that everyone should collect the money and save the lives of his teammates first. In fact, Su Xianchu really didn't think about killing people, he just wanted to scare others. As a result, everyone around turned their eyes away and were unwilling to help, especially Luo Zinayu. The injured soldier had looked at her with ill intentions before. Seeing that no one was willing to pay, Ren Xiaosu wanted to forget it, but at this time, a weak voice came from the ground next to Ren Xiaosu. I brought money. Ren Xiaosu thought, you have a strong desire to live. He asked, where's the money? In the left pocket or the right pocket? I tell you, I don't know how to suture. Whether the wound can be healed after applying the medicine depends on fate. Everyone else was stunned. Can you just apply medicine without suture? Luo Zinayu spoke. I have a sewing kit here, but I fainted blood. I'll suture it, Su Xianchu said. At this time, Ren Xiaosu had already taken out a pile of money from the soldier's pocket. I won't charge you more, 1,200 yuan. Okay, the soldier felt much better after finding that he didn't have to die. He said to Ren Xiaosu, thank you. Thanks from Wang Lei, +1. Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up, and his gratitude coins moved again. After Wang Lei thanked him, he finally reached 77 coins, and he was one step closer to unlocking the weapon. The atmosphere in the camp was a little relaxed. On the one hand, Ren Xiaosu's jokes made the atmosphere less tense. On the other hand, everyone found that although Su Xianchu had hurt someone and acted decisively, he was not a truly cruel and vicious person. If Su Xianchu was very violent, everyone should be careful. After all, it is still very dangerous to have such a superhuman around. While helping the soldier sew up his wound, Su Xianchu said, I don't need to hide it from you now. The fortress just found that there should have been a pre-disaster civilization site in Jingshan. They sent a private army here just to map the route to facilitate a large army to explore. In fact, we didn't know what happened here before we came. After arriving here, I found that there was something wrong with Jingshan. I was thinking that since the secret of Jingshan can make wild beasts evolve, then this secret is also useful to humans and us superhumans. Is it also helpful? So I insisted on moving forward. Then didn't you say you gave up the mission before? Liu Bu asked. At that time, I felt that this place was too dangerous. In order not to expose my identity as a superhuman, I decided to give up. At worst, I could just follow the large group in the fortress. This would be safer, Su Xianchu replied. Ren Xiaosu understood that Su Xianchu had really thought of giving up before. At this point, Su Xianchu paused and said, but now it is impossible for me to return to the fortress. You have also seen the attitude of the fortress towards superhumans. If I go back, I will be in danger. So I will explore the depths of the Jingshan Mountains. If you want to go to the number 112 fortress, we will go our separate ways. I will not stop you. The depths of Jingshan Mountains and the number 112 fortress are 2 directions, one is to go northeast, and the other is to go northwest. Now everyone faces 2 choices, One is to let Su Xianchu leave the team, and the other is to follow Su Xianchu. No one in the camp spoke, as if they were waiting for others to decide first. I'll go with you, Yang Xiaojun said calmly. It's too dangerous here. The best way to get out alive is to stay with you, a superhuman. Ren Xiaosu recalled that this seemed to be the time when Yang Xiaojun spoke the most. But he felt that Yang Xiaojun was not telling the truth, because Yang Xiaojun's original goal should be the depths of Jingshan. At this point, Ren Xiaosu increasingly suspected that Yang Xiaojun was also a transcendent. Thanks to Park Bear, Li Ren Xiao Tianzin, and Xiangfeng Yi Qiwei Jun Yin 66 for becoming the new leader of this book. Chapter 59 The Pig Hits a Tree. Yang Xiaojun's decision to follow Su Xianchu into the mountain was unexpected to everyone. No one expected that the first person to speak up would be a girl. But what Yang Xiaojun said made sense. There were dangers everywhere here, and having a supernatural person around would always make people feel more at ease. Without the protection of a supernatural person, they might not be able to reach the number 112 refuge barrier safely, even if they did not go deep into Jingshan. After a short silence, someone followed and said, I'll go too. I'll go too. For a moment, everyone decided to follow Su Xianchu to Jingshan. It seemed that everyone was not stupid. At this time, Luo Zinai whispered beside Ren Xiaosu, are you going? Ren Xiaosu was obviously stunned for a moment. Why are you asking me? If you go, I'll go, Luo Zinai said. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Sister, we are not familiar with each other. Why do you make everyone look so similar? He ignored Luo Zinai and turned to Su Xianchu and said, I'll go with you too. Suddenly, a white light came from the distance. Su Xianchu glanced at the sky and said, everyone, take some time to rest. Since everyone has decided to follow me, let's set off at dawn. We agreed in advance that the entire team must listen to my command. If anyone disobeys me again, I won't be polite. After that, he took the private troops to pick up branches and tie them into a stretcher. The soldier who was kicked by him could still walk, but the one who was stabbed could not. Su Xianchu actually wanted to take the wounded with him. You know, after a dense forest suddenly appeared here, everyone had to abandon the car. If they carried another person, it would be a big burden. I believe no one in the team is willing to carry a stretcher. A normal adult male is very heavy. Not to mention men, some adult women are also very heavy. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. Is Su Xianchu a positive person, or is he deliberately winning people's hearts? Seeing the injured Wang Lei was about to cry with emotion, he kept saying thank you to Su Xianchu. Hearing the words of thanks, Ren Xiaosu suddenly had a bold idea. After the stretcher was tied up, Su Xianchu asked, who is willing to help me carry him? I'll carry him. Ren Xiaosu took the initiative to stand up. Everyone around was puzzled. Ren Xiaosu, how could you be so kind? Su Xianchu thought for a while and said, you are most familiar with the wilderness, so you should lead the way. Besides, you are still young, and I'm afraid you can't carry an adult male. Ren Xiaosu was anxious. No, I must carry him today. Whoever snatches it from me today, I will kill him. Everyone was confused at the time. Do you still need to say harsh words when doing good deeds now? Half an hour later, Ren Xiaosu and Su Xianchu carried the stretcher one after the other. He didn't feel it was too heavy. After all, he was surprisingly strong now. After Ren Xiaosu applied medicine to Wang Lei thanked Ren Xiaosu and thanked him +1. When Wang Lei was lifted up, Wang Lei thanked Ren Xiaosu, and he got +1 thank you coin. On the way, Ren Xiaosu cared about whether Wang Lei was hungry or thirsty, and Wang Lei thanked him again, and he got +1 thank you coin. Ren Xiaosu really didn't expect that he could find a magic tool to earn thank you coins here. In just half an hour, Ren Xiaosu had earned 82 thank you coins. Su Xianchu felt a little strange. In his impression, Ren Xiaosu was the kind of person who didn't care about anything. How could he suddenly become a good person? Exclamation mark. He didn't believe it. But Su Xianchu thought about it for a long time along the way. If Ren Xiaosu had ulterior motives, what was Ren Xiaosu trying to do? He couldn't figure it out. This dense forest was not easy to walk through. The density of trees was definitely something Ren Xiaosu had never seen before. He came here only a year ago, but now looking at the forest in front of him, he felt as if he hadn't been here for decades. It had changed so much. Ren Xiaosu was chatting with Wang Lei, but his eyes were always on the surroundings. When they were walking on the road, Ren Xiaosu deliberately looked at the place where he had discarded the mouse. It turned out that only a few hours later, the remains of the mouse had turned into bones. This means that there must be scavenging insects nearby, perhaps ants. As they walked forward, Luo Zinayu surrounded Su Xianshu, as if she had a great interest in Su Xianshu. Ren Xiaosu saw Luo Zinayu almost pressed her body against Su Xianshu several times, but Su Xianshu kept deliberately speaking coldly to her. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu saw some shadows of the women in the market town from Luo Zinayu. It turns out that some women in the barrier will subconsciously seek support in dangerous environments. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yang Xiaojun again, and saw that Yang Xiaojun's two gun muzzles were always pointed in the direction of others. Luo Zinayu and Yang Xiaojun were like two extremes. At noon, Su Xianshu asked Ren Xiaosu, "Can you find some food for everyone?" Ren Xiaosu said absent-mindedly, "I'm not a god, how can I really find food? If I say there is a wild boar hitting a tree, can there be a wild boar hitting a tree?" As soon as the voice fell, there was a loud bang a few hundred meters in front of them, followed by the sound of branches breaking, as if something really hit the tree. Everyone looked at Ren Xiaosu with a strange expression. Su Xianshu led everyone to approach carefully, and found that it was really a wild boar that broke a big tree. At this time, the wild boar was lying next to the big tree and struggling to get up, but it hit itself so hard that it couldn't stand up at all. The gray shadow on Su Xianshu separated, and the gray shadow jumped up to a height of several meters. When it landed, it had already punched the wild boar's head hard, and the wild boar fell to the ground with a bang. However, no one paid attention to the gray shadow, but looked at Ren Xiaosu in amazement. Liu Bu smiled and said, "Now we can have some game for lunch. Ren Xiaosu is great. Whatever you say, it will come true." Everyone laughed. Having food is always a good thing, but Ren Xiaosu was the only one who didn't laugh. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the market town, with uneasiness hidden in his heart. Liuan. Only Ren Xiaosu knew that this must be Yan Liuan's wish again, and Yan Liuan must be suffering from the backlash now. I hope Sister Xiao and Zhang Jinglan can take good care of him. Ren Xiaosu fell silent. He decided to try to avoid saying such speculative words in the future, otherwise the more good luck he got, the more dangerous Yan Liuan would be. Ren Xiaosu sighed in his heart, how stubborn. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu wanted to go back to the market town more than ever before. He wanted to see if Yan Liuan was okay. Chapter 60. I like you. This dense forest looked very gloomy. No one dared to come in last night, but they didn't encounter any danger after walking for a whole morning. There was only a wild boar that might pose a threat to everyone, but it crashed into a tree and died. Ren Xiaosu wanted to observe whether there was any feces of large beasts on the way, but found nothing. However, Ren Xiaosu did not relax his vigilance, because he still didn't understand how the fish meat, fish bones, and Su Xia's body disappeared. Everyone found a small open space in the woods, and then picked up a lot of firewood to camp there. Everyone did not sleep last night, so they had to rest early today, otherwise no one could bear it. Su Xianshu was using a military knife to cut up the pork. The smell of blood filled the open space. Ren Xiaosu reminded him, "Don't think of saving the unfinished food for tomorrow. Most of the dangers in the wilderness are attracted by the smell of blood." As he spoke, Ren Xiaosu pointed to the ground below, where groups of black ants had arrived. Each of these ants was the size of a fingertip and looked extremely scary. They won't attack you when you're active during the day. They're just looking for food and the source of the smell of blood. But at night, when you sleep in the range of the smell of blood, you're their food. They only need to bite you, and the formic acid they secrete will make you feel miserable. Su Xianshu nodded, "I see. Thanks for the reminder." Thanks from Su Xianshu, +1. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Su Xianshu was quite sincere. At noon, everyone was feasting on the roasted pork. They were really hungry. Just as Ren Xiaosu was eating the meat, Luo Zinayu actually sat next to him. Luo Zinayu said innocently, "I feel like you can enjoy life in the wilderness. It looks very romantic." Ren Xiaosu shook his head and said, "This is survival, not romantic at all." In the wilderness, Ren Xiaosu had never heard the word romantic, and the things in the wilderness could never be associated with the word romantic. Sometimes Ren Xiaosu felt that there was a huge gap between his thinking as a refugee and those people in the barrier. Luo Zhenyu ignored Ren Xiaosu's rebuttal and suddenly said to Ren Xiaosu, "You know, you are very charming." Ren Xiaosu frowned. Did he come to find him because he had a snag with Su Xianchu? He pretended not to hear it, but Luo Zhenyu actually sat next to him and refused to leave. In fact, Luo Zhenyu had her own plans. At least she wouldn't be hungry if she followed Ren Xiaosu here. Others might not have noticed, but Luo Zhenyu had already discovered that Ren Xiaosu was definitely not an ordinary person. How could an ordinary teenager carry a normal adult male to escape? I'm afraid Su Xianchu's original body didn't have this ability. Therefore, Luo Zhenyu thought that young men were most likely to be impulsive during their adolescence, and this was probably the same whether in the market town or in the fortress. She only needed to show some goodwill, and this boy named Ren Xiaosu would definitely go through fire and water for her. In fact, she didn't mind letting Ren Xiaosu take advantage of her. Was there a lack of such things in the fortress? Not a little. To put it bluntly, she was just lacking a sense of security and wanted to find someone she could use. In fact, Luo Zhenyu could also show her goodwill to Su Xianchu, but in the previous trip, Luo Zhenyu went to Su Xianchu to chat more than once, but was rejected every time. In Luo Zhenyu's impression, Su Xianchu was a relatively firm-minded adult who knew what he wanted. Once danger occurred, Su Xianchu would most likely give up on him at any time. As for Liu Bu, needless to say, he was a waste. And she saw that Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun might have formed a short-term alliance, and bringing Ren Xiaosu in was equivalent to bringing Yang Xiaojun in. Many people thought that Yang Xiaojun was her assistant, but in fact, Yang Xiaojun had no employment relationship with her at all. Instead, Yang Xiaojun gave Liu Bu a sum of money and said that she wanted to go to barrier number 112. Luo Zhenyu didn't know Yang Xiaojun's identity. She only heard Liu Bu say that Yang Xiaojun was an ordinary little girl who was going to barrier number 112 to find her relatives. However, after entering the wilderness, Luo Zhenyu slowly discovered that Yang Xiaojun was gradually getting out of control, and when Yang Xiaojun took out a gun and pointed it at Ren Xiaosu, she knew how could this be an ordinary little girl? Now Luo Zhenyu's idea is to join this alliance and form a small group with Yang Xiaojun and Ren Xiaosu. In her opinion, how could a refugee like Ren Xiaosu who has never seen the world resist her temptation? In fact, Luo Zhenyu and Liu Bu have a kind of arrogance in their bones when facing refugees. They think that refugees are just an appendage of the barrier, not people, but objects. Ren Xiaosu considered her tone and said to Luo Zhenyu, "Big sister, stay away from me." Luo Zhenyu decided to be more direct. She smiled and said, "Maybe there were some misunderstandings on the road before. Actually, Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "What's wrong with you?" Luo Zhenyu moved closer to Ren Xiaosu, as if whispering, and even her body was almost touching Ren Xiaosu's arm. She exhaled like orchid and said, "I like you." Ren Xiaosu's face changed drastically. "Watch your mouth." Luo Zhenyu. Puff. Yang Xiaojun, who was drinking bottled water next to her, sprayed the water in her mouth in one gulp. It seemed that she found that her reaction was a little wrong, and quickly pretended to be nothing. Luo Zhenyu never expected that Ren Xiaosu would react like this. Can this be a normal person's reaction? Who has a dirty mouth? Is there something wrong with your brain? At this time, Luo Zhenyu began to doubt whether she had made a wrong decision. Actually, what Luo Zhenyu didn't know was that Ren Xiaosu had seen a lot of so-called seductions in the market town. Since he was old enough to hunt, there were countless women who wanted to get close to him. This was also the reason why Yan Liwen was very wary of Sister Xiao at the beginning. So Luo Zhenyu thought that he might not have seen the world, but in fact, Ren Xiaosu was afraid that she would be scared if he told her about the world he had seen. Ren Xiaosu sneered in his heart. He would not want a woman like Luo Zhenyu, even if she was given to him for free. What a waste of food. In the past, he thought that there should be smart people in the barrier. After all, Mr. Zhang from the school said that most of the books were kept in the barrier, so Ren Xiaosu thought that the more books people read, the smarter they should be. As a result, Liu Bu and Luo Zhenyu really refreshed his cognition. Of course, there are also smart people in the barrier, such as the two officers Wang Kongyang and Su Xianchu. Luo Zhenyu calmed down. "Help me get out and go back to barrier 113, and I will fight for 3 places for you to enter the barrier." Ren Xiaosu stood up and left. Who are you talking big to? It seems like you have the final say in the barrier. Ren Xiaosu is not stupid. He thinks that if he uses the skill learning map on Luo Zinayu now, he may be able to obtain the advanced bragging skill. Thanks to Luoboxi for becoming the new leader of this book. Chapter 61, Changing Attitude Faster Than Turning the Pages of a Book. How difficult is it for refugees to enter the barrier? According to Wang Fuge has only seen 4 people successfully enter the barrier in his life of more than 40 years, and they are all distant relatives of some big figures in the barrier. These people came to the barrier to seek refuge with their relatives, but were rejected by the barrier, so they could only live in the market town and wait for opportunities. Even the distant relatives of some big figures want to enter the barrier so difficult. You Luo Zinayu said you would give 3 places and you gave 3 places? If you are really that good, then you don't have to take the mission of the private army to go to the barrier number 112. Wouldn't it be better to let the private army escort you directly? In this world, people who treat others as fools are fools themselves. Ren Xiaosu thinks Luo Zinayu is still a little too scheming. Although he is a refugee, he is not lacking in judgment. If someone else were to be the guide, he might really believe it, but Ren Xiaosu doesn't believe it. If Ren Xiaosu agreed to her conditions, where would he find someone when Luo Zinayu entered the barrier? Luo Zinayu could have easily crossed the river and then burned the bridge. And to be honest, Ren Xiaosu really didn't have any good feelings towards Luo Zinayu and Liu Bu. At noon, everyone was thirsty after eating pork, but their bottled water and food were all left on the pickup truck, or most of the bottled water was shot to pieces by Su Xianchu and his men. Su Xianchu looked at Ren Xiaosu. How can we find water here? At this time, the palace issued a task, tell you how to find water. You can only find a river, or collect dew on the leaves. Ren Xiaosu did not hide it, but I don't recommend you go to the river. According to my judgment, the nearby rivers are still a bit far away. You won't die of thirst if you endure it. Collect dew tomorrow morning. Su Xianchu nodded, thank you. Thanks from Su Xianchu, +1. Ren Xiaosu waited for a long time, and he asked curiously in his mind, where's my reward? But the palace still ignored him, and Ren Xiaosu wondered what was going on. It seemed that this was the first time that the palace saw Ren Xiaosu complete the task well and didn't want to go astray, and there was a problem with the judgment mechanism. After a long time, the palace said in Ren Xiaosu's mind, the mission is completed, and the reward is 1.0 strength. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. The mission was completed, but it was different from what he thought. He was given strength. Before, Ren Xiaosu was thinking whether the palace would give him a balanced strength and agility. As a result, his agility is still 4.1, and his strength is 7.5. Maybe after a few more missions, Ren Xiaosu's strength will be more than 3 times that of a normal adult. At this time, Ren Xiaosu still had 2 bottles of bottled water on him, which he exchanged for half a fish. This thing cannot be hidden, after all, the pocket of the coat is only that big. Suddenly, Liu Bu came over and said to Ren Xiaosu, 1,000 yuan a bottle, sell it to me. Ren Xiaosu glanced at him and said, no. 2,000 yuan. Liu Bu said anxiously, how about 2,000? I'm really thirsty. Ren Xiaosu thought that Liu Bu was really a bit fierce. He looked at Liu Bu and said, money is useless in this place. The value of food and water is inestimable. If you want to drink water, go to the river yourself. At this time, Liu Bu wanted to get angry, but he no longer had the arrogance he had when he came out of the barrier before, because he also understood that Ren Xiaosu's role on this journey was definitely much greater than his. If the two of them had a dispute or an irreconcilable conflict, according to Su Xianchu's character, he would definitely give up Liu Bu, not Ren Xiaosu. When he first came out of the barrier, Liu Bu thought that the refugees were to serve the barrier, and the people in the barrier could always be high and mighty, but now he has sobered up a lot. Ren Xiaosu wiped his hands with leaves on the side, and after finishing the job, he decisively went to ask Wang Lei about his well-being and swiped the thank you coins. But how can you get unlimited thank you coins? After Wang Lei experienced Ren Xiaosu's concern and caring, he also found that Ren Xiaosu's attitude towards him was a little strange, so that he didn't get any thank you coins after saying thank you several times. Ren Xiaosu saw that there were no thank you coins left, so he decisively gave up on Wang Lei. At this time, he had 84 thank you coins. In the afternoon, Su Xianchu took a look at the sky and said, "This place is not suitable for camping. We must find a less open place to prevent wild animals from attacking. Let's hold on and continue on our way." Ren Xiaosu agreed with Su Xianchu's suggestion. This place has become a dangerous place after slaughtering pigs and barbecuing meat. Some snakes, insects and poisonous ants are used to appearing at night. It seems that nothing is wrong now, but it may become a disaster for everyone at night. Didn't you see that the mouse that was abandoned before has turned into a skeleton? Su Xianchu walked to the stretcher and said to Ren Xiaosu, "Come and carry him together." Ren Xiaosu was unhappy. "Why should I carry him?" Su Xianchu. Wang Lei. Ren Xiaosu looked at Liu Bu and said, "You carry him. If you don't, I'll chop you down." Liu Bu almost collapsed at that time. Is he crazy? This scene made the other people in the camp stunned. They thought, is this kid schizophrenic or something? Are you so angry so quickly? Didn't you say in the morning that you would chop whoever fights with you? At this time, Su Xianchu didn't want to waste time. He said, "Except for the girls, everyone come and take turns to carry the wounded. You will also get hurt. If you don't want to die, you have to help each other now." Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that Su Xianchu was quite rational. No matter what happened in the team, he was trying his best to get everyone back on track. On the road, some restless private army soldiers began to approach Luo Zinayu intentionally or unintentionally, and even when passing by Luo Zinayu, they would pretend to touch Luo Zinayu with their arms, but every time Luo Zinayu discovered and avoided in advance, and then several private army soldiers would laugh obscenely. Logically, Liu Bu and Luo Zinayu should have a good relationship, but Liu Bu never dared to speak after seeing this scene. How dare he provoke these private army soldiers? After Luo Zinayu hid a nail with Su Xianchu and Ren Xiaosu successively, she seemed a little confused and didn't know what to do. She could only avoid passively. And those soldiers seemed to be releasing the beasts in their hearts in this dangerous situation where there was no tomorrow. But Ren Xiaosu didn't want to take care of this matter. After the team continued to move forward, he remembered that he had obtained another skill learning map, and he didn't know if he could extract Yang Xiaojin's advanced fighting skills this time. As a result, when Ren Xiaosu looked up to find Yang Xiaojin, he saw Yang Xiaojin pointing a gun at a soldier's head. Yang Xiaojin turned to Ren Xiaosu and said, "His gun is yours." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Preserving Dignity. The soldier pointed at by Yang Xiaojin happened to be the one who harassed Luo Zinayu most frequently, so Ren Xiaosu thought that Yang Xiaojin was going to help Luo Zinayu, right? Before, Ren Xiaosu thought that Yang Xiaojin was also a person who would not care about anything, but he did not expect that he could not stand Luo Zinayu being harassed. Maybe it was the bottom line of being a woman. The people in front looked back at the excitement here. They wanted to know whether Yang Xiaojin would have a violent conflict with the soldiers of the private army. Ren Xiaosu looked at Su Xianchu, and found that Su Xianchu just frowned, but did not stop him. It seemed that Su Xianchu also felt that these soldiers had gone too far. As for the other soldiers, none of them dared to stand up and speak for this soldier. It was clear at a glance whether this team was united or not. However, Ren Xiaosu did not intend to be polite to them. He walked directly to the soldier and pulled out the gun on his waist. When these soldiers fled, they felt that the guns were too heavy, so they simply threw away the rifles and kept only the pistols. The soldier said in a cold voice, "Do you know how serious the crime of robbing private troops' guns is?" Yang Xiaojin said calmly, "If you threaten me again, you may die now." Ren Xiaosu almost applauded after hearing this. What a decisive girl. When he pulled out the other party's gun, the soldier held his waist tightly with his right hand, trying to stop Ren Xiaosu silently. However, Ren Xiaosu's strength was so great that he could not imagine it. He forcibly pried open the man's fingers. If the soldier had not given up halfway, Ren Xiaosu could have broken his fingers directly. This is a gun. Ren Xiaosu can finally hold a gun openly. Since he got the advanced gun skills, he has never had the opportunity to use a gun openly. The soldier whose gun was taken away looked at Ren Xiaosu. "Didn't you take the gun away? What are you touching? Where is the magazine?" Ren Xiaosu asked. The soldier was speechless, on the left side of the combat uniform. While letting Ren Xiaosu search him, he sneered at Yang Xiaojun. Even if you give him the gun, can a refugee like him use it? Others also thought that there was nothing wrong with what the soldier said, only Yang Xiaojun was a little confused when she saw the way Ren Xiaosu held the gun. Among all the people present, Yang Xiaojun was undoubtedly the one who knew the most about guns, otherwise the palace would not have a perfect evaluation of her. So when everyone else thought that Ren Xiaosu could not use the gun, she clearly noticed that Ren Xiaosu's posture of holding the gun was very natural and skillful, and even the angle maintained when his arm was hanging down was the most suitable angle to raise the gun at any time. This is not a skill that a refugee should have. Others can't see it, but Yang Xiaojun can. But she didn't wonder for too long, she just said to the soldier, "Get lost." Having a gun taken away is probably one of the biggest shames for a soldier. The soldier walked aside with a sullen face. Su Xianchu saw that the matter had been resolved and said, "Keep going. We have to find a suitable campsite before sunset." Su Xianchu didn't want to get involved in the mess in the team. Now he only had Jingshan in his mind, nothing else. On the road, the private troops in Luo Xinyu, Yang Xiaojun, Ren Xiaosu formed a clear boundary, and both sides were far away. But Ren Xiaosu was thinking about one thing. If Yang Xiaojun insisted on helping Luo Xinyu, or even helping Luo Xinyu get out together, then he might have to give up this short-lived alliance. At this moment Luo Xinyu said to Yang Xiaojun, "Thank you for helping me. I hope that in the days to come we can work together and get out of this mountain together." But Ren Xiaosu clearly saw Yang Xiaojun stun for a moment, and then Yang Xiaojun said to Luo Xinyu, "I'm not helping you for nothing. You should return the money I gave you first." Luo Xinyu was choked for a long time. She took out 10,000 from her bag and handed it to Yang Xiaojun. "You gave me 5,000 at the beginning, and I'm giving you 10,000 now as a thank you." Yang Xiaojun hummed indifferently, and put the 10,000 yuan into his pocket without being polite at all. Luo Xinyu smiled when she saw Yang Xiaojun accept it. "Then you will help me along the way, right?" "Let me correct you," Yang Xiaojun said to Luo Xinyu, "I never thought of helping you get out of Jingshan. I can only ensure that you will have dignity when you die." Luo Xinyu. Ren Xiaosu understood what Yang Xiaojun meant when he heard this. She just wanted to ensure that Luo Xinyu would not be violated by the soldiers of the private army. As for whether she lived or died, she didn't care too much. In fact, Luo Xinyu is quite pitiful. She took the initiative to walk out of the barrier, but now she doesn't even have a person she can trust. There was a fork in the road ahead. These were two mountain roads, leading to two directions. The high crowns of the trees here almost blocked the entire sky. People couldn't even tell where the sun was, and even where Jingshan was a little blurry. Su Xianchu turned around and asked Ren Xiaosu, "Which way should we go?" At this time, Ren Xiaosu heard a voice from the palace, "Task, point the way." Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment and said, "Left." Task completed, reward 1.0 agility. Ren Xiaosu felt his muscles solidify again, and he finally confirmed one thing: strength plus agility is equal to the real muscle strength, and only adding strength or agility is not enough. At this time, the soldier whose gun was taken away said coldly, "Didn't you say you haven't been deep here? I remember you said you hid in the canyon for a few days and then came out. How do you know the way?" Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "I don't know the way." Su Xianchu. Yang Xiaojun. Everyone was speechless. "If you don't know the way, why are you pointing blindly?" But Ren Xiaosu didn't have any psychological pressure. The task given by the palace was to point the way, and it didn't say which way to point. Anyway, whether you know it or not, just point it and it's done. He really didn't know the way, but the task had to be completed. Su Xianchu hesitated for a moment and said, "Then why are you pointing to the left?" Ren Xiaosu said, "Although I don't know the way, I know Jingshan is in front of us on the left." "Okay," Su Xianchu nodded, "then let's go to the left. Tell me if you see a suitable place to camp." When making decisions in the wilderness, Su Xianchu would habitually ask for Ren Xiaosu's opinion, and it turned out that Ren Xiaosu's opinion was usually not wrong. Ren Xiaosu would climb up the pine trees he saw along the way to pick some pine cones and plump pine needles. Others were a little confused. It was understandable that you picked pine cones, after all, you can eat them. But why did you pick pine needles? Ren Xiaosu squeezed the pine needles one by one to get the light green juice, and then licked the juice clean with his tongue. He said to others, "If you don't want to die of thirst, you can learn from me." Some people hesitated and didn't know whether to learn or not. In the end, Yang Xiaojun and Su Xianchu climbed up the pine tree without saying a word. Chapter 63 All missing. When it comes to survival instinct, in this team, besides Ren Xiaosu, Su Xianchu and Yang Xiaojun are the least pretentious. Ren Xiaosu said that the juice squeezed from pine needles can be drunk, so the two of them just climbed up the tree to find suitable pine needles to squeeze, and they broke a lot of pine cones in an instant. In fact, only people like Ren Xiaosu who have been walking in the wilderness for many years understand that nature is generous. It doesn't care who gets what from it. As long as you are attentive, you can definitely rely on nature to survive. Someone sighed, "Humans live worse than animals. It would be nice to become an animal in the next life." Ren Xiaosu glanced at him and said, "Animals don't lie as freely as you think. I heard that giraffes, the tallest animals on land, can resist enemies because of their height, but mating is very complicated. So before courting, male giraffes need to drink urine to determine whether the female giraffe is in estrus. If something unexpected happens at that time, the urine will be drunk in vain." The others in the team suspected that Ren Xiaosu was deliberately disgusting them. No, this refugee boy must be disgusting them on purpose, right? At this time, Ren Xiaosu was much tougher with a gun. There were only 9 people left in the whole team, 7 guns, 3 of which were in the hands of Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun had advanced firearm skills and one was perfect. Unless they went head-to-head with Su Xianchu, this small alliance would win against anyone they met. While waiting for everyone to pick pine needles and pine cones, Ren Xiaosu was bored and thought of his unused skill learning map. He glanced at Yang Xiaojun and said decisively in his mind, "Use the learning map. The target advanced skill has been randomly drawn, making bombs." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He decisively learned this skill, but he couldn't figure out what kind of training Yang Xiaojun had received and why her skills were so violent. Moreover, the two skills of gun skills and bomb making looked so out of place when put together with skipping rubber ropes. Are these really the skills of the same person? Ren Xiaosu suddenly became curious, and he asked casually in his mind, "Does the target have assassination skills?" "I have learned the target. I can tell you that the assassination skill is advanced." Ren Xiaosu suddenly had an idea and asked, "Does the target have the skill of singing nursery rhymes?" "I have learned the target. I can tell you that the skill of singing nursery rhymes is advanced." Ren Xiaosu was speechless. What a mess of skills. At a certain moment, he felt that he was really crazy to ask such a question, but he never expected that the other person really could do it, and it was an advanced skill. At this time, a large group of people finally finished picking pine cones and pine needles. Ren Xiaosu sighed, "Can't you all change a tree? You have to squeeze a tree to pull it out. You are almost pulling it bald." Everyone looked up after hearing this, and it was really almost plucked bald. Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, "I taught you how to survive in the wilderness. Shouldn't you thank me?" Everyone else was stunned for a moment, and then a few people thanked Ren Xiaosu. As a result, Ren Xiaosu found that only Su Xianchu and Yang Xiaojun's thanks were sincere. With 86 thank you coins, Ren Xiaosu became more and more eager for the unlocked weapon, so he set his sights on the group of people around him. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly found that Luo Zinayu's hands were empty. You know, even Liu Bu held several pine cones. Luo Zinayu found Ren Xiaosu's gaze and said in embarrassment, "I can't climb up." Luo Zinayu, the star of the barrier, had never climbed such a high tree before, so she was the only one with empty hands. What is the loneliest time in life? It's when others have something, but you don't. For example, everyone has money, but you don't. For example, everyone has pine cones, but Luo Zinayu doesn't. At this time, Luo Zinayu hesitated and said to Ren Xiaosu, "I'll give you 10,000 yuan, can you help me pick some?" Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up and he immediately stuffed the pine cones and pine needles in his pocket into Luo Zinayu's arms. "From now on, you will be my brother, Ren Xiaosu." Luo Zinayu was stunned for a long time. "Thank you." Thanks from Luo Zinayu, +1. Ren Xiaosu didn't sell water before, because bottled water was too precious, clean and easy to carry, but pine cones and pine needles are different, They are readily available. And Luo Xinhao gave her a lot of money. What can 10,000 yuan do? 10,000 yuan can live a good life in the market town for more than 2 years, and you don't have to worry about food and clothing. In fact, before giving money to Ren Xiaosu, you never know whether you will become Ren Xiaosu's brother. This law is also called Schrodinger's brother. Luo Xinhao took the pine cones and pine needles, but she found that Ren Xiaosu didn't pick new ones, so she asked curiously, "Aren't you going to pick pine cones? What will you eat in the evening?" Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "I eat chocolate." Luo Xinhao. He still had the chocolate that Luo Xinhao had exchanged with Ren Xiaosu. It just so happened that the chocolate had melted a little after being carried with him for several days. Although it was late autumn, it still had body temperature in his pocket. At first, he didn't believe Yang Xiaojing's words that chocolate would melt. After all, he had never eaten it. He originally planned to bring it back to Yan Luan, but now it seems that he can't bring it back. But Luo Xinhao's gratitude suddenly disappeared. This was the chocolate that was cheated from her. Horizontal ellipsis. Before the evening, Ren Xiaosu finally found a huge rock cave suitable for camping. The rock protruded outward like a huge roof, and under the rock formed a natural semi-open shelter, just like a cave. When Ren Xiaosu passed a clearing, he found scaly clouds in the sky. Although he didn't understand the principle, he knew that it was a sign of rain. So with such a rock to shelter from the wind and rain, they could rest peacefully. When they had just settled down under the rock wall, the rain poured down from the sky. Su Xianchu turned to Ren Xiaosu and asked, "Can this rainwater be drunk?" "No," Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "Acid rain will kill people if you drink it, even if the acidity of acid rain is not so high now." Ren Xiaosu didn't know the cause and judgment index of acid rain, so he could only roughly use acidity to summarize the degree of harm of acid rain. Suddenly, some strange noises appeared in the woods outside the cave, but the noises went away in a moment, without even giving Ren Xiaosu and the others time to react. At this moment, the person inside the cave suddenly said, "Look, someone has carved something here." Ren Xiaosu and Su Xianchu walked inside and saw someone had carved a few words crookedly on the top of the cave. "We saw a strange black shadow in the woods. Missing, they're all missing." Chapter 64 Satellite. When everyone saw these 2 lines of words, the atmosphere in the entire cave suddenly dropped to the freezing point. After entering the forest today, everyone actually did not encounter any danger. Apart from being very tired after not sleeping all night, nothing strange happened. This gave everyone an illusion, as if this place was safer than the canyon and the previous journey. They almost forgot the reminder outside the canyon that no living people should enter. But at this moment, they all remembered. The missing body of Su Xia, the terrifying human-faced worm, and the 4 big words no living people should enter. Has anyone disappeared along the way? Su Xianchu's first reaction was to count the number of people, and found that no one was missing. Could this be a prank carved here by someone? Liu Bu asked in confusion. "There is no sign of fighting in this cave, and we didn't even see the bones of a wild animal or a human on the way." Wait, Liu Bu's words woke Ren Xiaosu up. In fact, the strangest thing was here. There must be animal bones in ordinary forests, whether it is birds, snakes or larger beasts. This is a very common thing. But the strangest thing about this forest is that Ren Xiaosu has not seen any corpses, only the mouse he just abandoned. At this time, Ren Xiaosu wanted to go back and confirm whether the corpse of the mouse had also disappeared. After all, it was abandoned too recently. Maybe it was just bones when he went to see it in the morning, but now it has disappeared. Just like Su Xia and the fish meat and bones. This huge forest actually hides a creepy secret. A soldier asked. "It seems that a group of people came here within a year. There are quite a lot of people, but no one from our number 113 fortress has come to the border mountain. Maybe the people from the number 112 fortress wanted to come to our fortress, but an accident happened," Su Xianchu recalled carefully, "but we are all the lowest private troops, so we have no way of knowing who came." Su Xianchu was right. They were the most marginalized people in the private troops. How could the upper level tell them if they knew any intelligence? Someone said, "Maybe we were sent here because something happened to this team and the top leaders of the barrier found out and asked us to check. If this team has a satellite phone, they should be able to send information to the barrier." This was the first time Ren Xiaosu heard the term satellite phone. Mr. Zhang from the school had never mentioned it before. He had thought that there should be a connection between the barriers, but he didn't know how they were connected. Now it seems that it should be a satellite phone, right? Ren Xiaosu asked Yang Xiaojin in a low voice, "What is a satellite phone? I heard from Mr. Zhang that there is a phone in the barrier, but what is a satellite phone?" Yang Xiaojin glanced at him and said, "Humans have taken over several satellites before the disaster, which can allow the barriers to maintain communication." Someone said angrily, "If the top leaders knew that they were missing, then they sent us here to die. Are they trying to use human lives to confirm whether the news is true? If we die here too, it means that there is really danger here. No wonder we were not even equipped with satellite phones this time. It seems that they want to minimize the losses. Are our lives not as valuable as satellite phones?" Su Xianchu glanced at him. "Don't make random guesses based on a little information. Your guess is not logical." In fact, the soldier's words were no longer logical due to fear, so Su Xianchu did not agree with his guess. Ren Xiaosu looked at the 2 lines of words carefully. What did he use to carve the words on the cave? It should be a bayonet or something like that. Normal people can't carve such deep marks with things they carry. Su Xianchu nodded. It should be the private army at the number 112 barrier. He turned to everyone and said, "Have a good rest tonight. If you want to go out to solve physiological problems at night, you must go with more than 3 people. This arrangement is to prevent the occurrence of unexplained disappearances. Even if they encounter danger, 3 people will not be able to make a cry for help." Su Xianchu continued, "And someone must take turns to watch the night tonight. In this way, I will be on duty in the first shift, and the others will take turns later. The girl doesn't need to be on duty." Ren Xiaosu agreed with this arrangement, but this night watch is not very meaningful, because he not only has to guard against dangers outside, but also against dangers within the team. After all, he and Yang Xiaojin had just seized the guns of a private army, and it is very likely that the other party will attack him in the middle of the night. As a result, Yang Xiaojin said to Ren Xiaosu, "You guard the first half of the night, and I guard the second half of the night." "Okay," Ren Xiaosu nodded. There is another basis for the existence of their short-lived alliance. There is no need for the 2 of them to harm each other. "I'm going out for a while," Yang Xiaojin said. Ren Xiaosu thought, "Aren't you afraid of accidents? I'll go with you." Yang Xiaojin paused for a long time and whispered, "No need." Ren Xiaosu was a little puzzled. This girl was too brave. What did she rely on? Luo Zinayu stood up and said, "I'll go with you." She turned her head and glanced at Ren Xiaosu. "You really don't know anything." Ren Xiaosu felt his face burning. He only realized what was going on. The 2 girls went outside in the rain. At this time, Su Xianchu took a look but said nothing. Someone from the private army whispered, "It would be a pity if these 2 girls disappeared." But within 5 minutes, Yang Xiaojin and Luo Zinai returned to the cave as if nothing had happened. What's going on? Could it be that the so-called strange shadow in the woods didn't target their team? 2 soldiers from the private army stood up when they saw this. "Let's go out and relieve ourselves. We can't hold it any longer." The grown men actually let the 2 girls explore the way first before they dared to go out. And because of fear, the 2 of them were almost peeing their pants. They really couldn't help but pee. In fact, they originally planned to pee in the cave, but Yang Xiaojin and Luo Zinai were fine, so they had to muster up the courage to go out. Su Xianchu nodded and said, "Go and come back quickly. Don't waste time smoking outside." "Don't worry." The 2 soldiers put on their clothes and went out. Ren Xiaosu ate chocolate while watching Yang Xiaojin wipe the rain off her body in the cave. He asked curiously, "Did you encounter any accidents?" "No," Yang Xiaojin replied briefly. Someone lit a bonfire in the cave. After throwing pine cones into the bonfire, everyone began to squeeze pine needles and lick the juice inside the pine needles to quench their thirst. The pine cones made a crackling sound in the fire, and the warmth of the bonfire was transmitted to everyone, and everyone felt as if they had come back alive. But at this moment, Su Xianchu suddenly looked outside the cave. "Why haven't they come back yet? I have to catch the high-speed train to attend the Internet Literature Week in Hangzhou today, so I will update it in advance." Thanks to Lei Ju for becoming the new leader of this book. Chapter 65 Withdrawal Reaction. The 2 private army soldiers who have not returned yet dared to go out only because they saw that nothing happened to Yang Xiaojin and the others, and they went out together, which can be said to be fully prepared. But now nearly 10 minutes have passed and the 2 have not returned. Su Xianchu stood at the edge of the cave and looked at the forest outside. Because of the rain, although it was just after dusk, the sky had already completely darkened. Will something happen to them? Someone asked. But there was not even a sound. Someone huddled in the corner of the cave said, "It's impossible that both of them were attacked at the same time and couldn't even make a sound." It stands to reason that this is the case, but isn't this the most frightening thing? Su Xianchu asked those who went out to go out in groups, but now they are in groups and still have accidents. Su Xianchu said, "Don't think too much, it may just be a delay, only 10 minutes. The cave was quiet. Although Su Xianchu comforted everyone like this, time passed by minute, and the two people really never appeared again. Su Xianchu said, "Who of you is willing to go with me to find them?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Su Xianchu was willing to brave the unknown dangers and acid rain to enter the forest to find his subordinates. But no one in the entire cave responded to him. Who would be willing to go out and die at this time? Several soldiers from the private army urinated in the innermost part of the cave, making the whole cave smell of urine. Ren Xiaosu and his friends could only sit in the outermost ventilated area of the cave. Although it was a bit cold, at least they didn't have to smell that smell. Su Xianchu sighed and said, "If you don't save others, don't blame others for not saving you when they are on life and death." Ren Xiaosu didn't care. He didn't expect anyone to save him. Even his ally Yang Xiaojin would probably abandon everyone when facing danger. It's good enough that everyone doesn't have any ties to each other and doesn't pit each other. The sound of rain outside washed over the entire forest. Ren Xiaosu said to Yang Xiaojin, "I'll guard the first half of the night. You should rest first. After this rain, the road will be very difficult to walk tomorrow. It will consume a lot of energy and physical strength. Be careful of those private army soldiers. They have bad intentions." Ren Xiaosu had discovered before that since the two of them took the guns, these private army soldiers would gather together from time to time. This was a hidden danger, but Ren Xiaosu had not figured out how to solve it. Well, Yang Xiaojin nodded and leaned against the stone wall of the cave to close his eyes and rest. However, until this time, Yang Xiaojin's gun was still pointed at everyone, including Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu smiled and didn't mind. He would do the same if he were in their place. The team of 11 people inexplicably became 9 people. Ren Xiaosu looked at the remaining private army soldiers in the cave. Some of them were sitting inside smoking. The smell of cigarettes still made Ren Xiaosu feel sick. It was hard for him to imagine that if the soldiers in a shelter began to use this kind of psychotropic drugs to stimulate themselves, how vulnerable would a defense of this shelter be? Is it only the number 113 shelter, or is it the same for most of the private troops in the shelter? The soldiers of these private troops originally brought a lot of cigarettes, and Liu Bu also prepared 10 for them. However, they lost most of them on the way to escape. Now everyone only has half a pack or a pack, and some people don't have any cigarettes at all. This group of people sat inside and puffed out smoke, making the whole cave full of smoke. Fortunately, Ren Xiaosu, Yang Xiaojin and Luo Zinai were sitting at the outermost side of the cave, so the impact was not that great. I only heard a soldier say to the others, "Lend me one, I have no cigarettes." "I have no more, this is the last one." The soldier next to him moved aside. In fact, he still had more than half a pack in his pocket, but there was still so much time, who knew when he could get out? His own cigarettes were not enough. The private soldier who borrowed a cigarette looked at the others and said, "Lend me one, and I'll give you one when we get back to the fort." At this point, the so-called addiction had already come up. He was willing to make a solemn promise just to smoke a cigarette. You know, cigarettes are not cheap in the fort. Who knows if we can go back? Someone laughed. "What will you use to pay back?" "Your life." Ren Xiaosu sighed. This group of private soldiers was really a mob. There were still 2 teammates outside whose lives were uncertain. These people had already started to quarrel over cigarettes. The addicted soldier could only sit in the cave because he couldn't borrow a cigarette. Ren Xiaosu observed him carefully. He began to tremble and even had cold sweat on his forehead. Although the cigarettes smoked by these private soldiers were better than those smoked by the workers in the market town, the withdrawal reaction was also more severe. If there was any danger at this time, I'm afraid this addict wouldn't be able to stand up, let alone resist. Ren Xiaosu looked at Luo Zinayu who was still awake. "What is it like in your fortress?" This was actually one of the questions Ren Xiaosu was most curious about. He had always longed for life in the fortress, because all the daily necessities produced in the market town were picked up and transported to the fortress, and the people inside didn't have to eat steamed bread. They could wash their faces every day, and they could even use electricity. Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen had once thought that it was heaven, but now it seemed that it wasn't as beautiful as they had imagined. Luo Xinai was very happy to see Ren Xiaosu taking the initiative to talk to her. She had to rely on Ren Xiaosu in many ways along the way. She explained in a low voice, in fact, there are people on the private army side who deliberately induce them to do this. There was a mutiny in the private army in a barrier, and the managers of other barriers gradually developed a rift with the soldiers. The bigwigs want someone to protect themselves, but also hope that these troops will always be loyal and have no ambitions, and these cigarettes are the most ambition-killing. Ren Xiaosu asked, is it okay to smoke too much of this stuff? Of course it's okay, Luo Xinai said. Some retired soldiers are like zombies in the barrier, and some people's wives just run away with others. Your barrier is really chaotic, Ren Xiaosu sighed. That's nothing, Luo Xinai said. I've seen 60-year-old women supporting a dozen young gigolos, old cows eating young grass. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. 60 years old? Old cows eating young grass is not enough to describe it. Luo Xinai was also stunned for a moment. That's nothing, Ren Xiaosu pondered. Having a child in old age? Luo Xinai discovered that Ren Xiaosu's brain circuit was indeed a little different from that of other people. No wonder people in the market town said he was mentally ill. He was obviously not sick but was born with a mentally ill temperament. How did this brain circuit form? At this moment, someone in the cave exclaimed, "What is that?" "It's wet." As they spoke, a group of people ran out of the cave, as if they were extremely frightened. Ren Xiaosu looked into the cave and was puzzled. There was nothing. Chapter 66. A merchant. Ren Xiaosu didn't believe in ghosts, so when he found that there was nothing there, he looked more carefully. Wait, Ren Xiaosu understood what it was. He saw water droplets seeping down from the top of the cave, dripping, and falling to the ground of the cave. Probably because of the rain, the water seeped down through the rock layer on the top. The man was panicked just now, but it was nothing more than his nerves were too tense. So he mistook the water drops for other imaginary enemies, such as the saliva of monsters. But when Ren Xiaosu saw this thing, he said to others as if he had found a treasure, "You can get water here directly. The rock layer is like a natural filter, which can filter the water to be cleaner than well water. Of course, if you are worried, you can boil it before drinking." Su Xianchu asked seriously, "Really? Is this water drinkable?" "Yes," Ren Xiaosu said. "This is probably one of the cleanest water sources in the wilderness. Sometimes even the water from the spring may not be safer than this." When Su Xianchu heard what Ren Xiaosu said, he picked up his canteen to get water. Although pine needles can replenish some water in the body, the amount is still too little. That thing can only ensure that everyone will not die of thirst. Su Xianchu didn't monopolize the water source for too long. He placed the canteen on the campfire and said to the others, "You guys go get some too." The others were not like Su Xianchu, who actually brought a canteen to boil water. They could only use their mouths to get water, not to mention whether it was boiling or not. A group of people were pushing and shoving under the water source, drinking for a while, and the private army was better off, taking turns, but Liu Bu was miserable, and no one would let him go. After a while, a private army soldier got angry and said, "How can this be enough for everyone to drink with just a few drops? That Ren Xiaosu has 2 bottles of water in his pocket that have been hidden until now. He asked us to lick the stone wall and pine needles and drink bottled water ourselves. Who knows if there's any problem with this water?" The faces of several private army soldiers were not very good, but Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun had guns in their hands, so they didn't dare to say anything to their faces. Ren Xiaosu looked at this scene and thought, if only he could store things in his palace, then he could secretly put the bottled water in the palace tomorrow, and then tell others that he accidentally lost the water, so that no one would plot against him again. Otherwise, seeing that these people were almost crazy for the water, there was no guarantee that someone would take the risk to plot against him. At this time, the 2 bottles of water were in his coat pockets on both sides. He reached into his pocket and held the water bottle, trying to put the water bottle into the palace again. As a result, the palace voice immediately rang. No storage permission obtained. Ren Xiaosu was very unhappy when he heard this voice. "At least tell me how to obtain this permission." Why can the black medicine be stored and released freely, but this water bottle can't? What's wrong? The water bottle doesn't agree. Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu stepped aside. Luo Zinayu glanced at Ren Xiaosu. Why don't you drink? Ren Xiaosu looked at Luo Zinayu's questioning eyes, and it was obvious that the other party didn't believe that he would be so generous. Ren Xiaosu smiled. I drink bottled water. Luo Zinayu. At this time, Luo Zinayu found that Ren Xiaosu really had a talent for irritating people anytime and anywhere. But she didn't know that Ren Xiaosu actually gave up this water source out of careful consideration. First of all, everyone was thirsty, and this drop of water was definitely not enough. Su Xianshu, as a superhuman, could monopolize the water for a long time, and others would not dare to say anything, but he, Ren Xiaosu, was not a superhuman. The fact that he had 2 bottles of water on him had already made some people jealous, so he didn't need to be greedy for everything. One of the rules of survival in the wilderness is not to be too greedy, and Ren Xiaosu now needs to let Su Xianshu understand that if he wants to survive in the wilderness, the most indispensable person in this team is him, Ren Xiaosu. Since there is a superhuman like Su Xianshu to borrow strength, why not Ren Xiaosu? Also, the smell in the cave was too strong. Luo Zinayu was originally very scared in this very tense atmosphere, so she chatted with Ren Xiaosu to relieve her inner fear. After all, it is always better to talk to someone. In fact, this method is very effective. When Ren Xiaosu said the 4 words old age and having a son, Luo Zinayu felt that she was really not afraid at all, and there were only ellipses in her mind. Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, do you know where the cigarettes these soldiers smoke come from? I don't think there's a place near the number 113 barrier to grow such things. Don't you know? Luo Zinayu asked in confusion. Wang Fuga said that you are someone Luolan takes care of. How could you not know about this matter? What does it have to do with Luolan? Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Although he received Luolan's silk banner, the problem is that he and Mr. Luo have no other intersection. Mr. Luo is the spokesperson of the Qing group at the number 113 barrier, Luo Zinayu explained. What is his position in the barrier? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. He heard Wang Fuga talk about Boss Luo every day, but in fact, Ren Xiaosu found that he seemed to know nothing about this Boss Luo. Boss Luo has no position. Luo Zinayu looked at Ren Xiaosu in surprise. Well, it seems that you really don't know. He only controls the metallurgical, water source, and chemical factories in barrier number 113. If you must ask what his identity is, then he is strictly just a businessman. Can a businessman call the shots in the barrier? Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said. He thought Boss Luo was the manager of the barrier before. They don't need to hold any position themselves, Luo Zinayu said helplessly. They are like the sky above the managers of the barrier. When nothing happens, everyone is at peace, but when something goes wrong, the decision-maker in the barrier must be this businessman. Is there an army around him? Ren Xiaosu asked after thinking. Luo Zinayu glanced at him and said, yes, the army, an army that is many times stronger than these private troops. The combat brigade stationed in the number 113 barrier is beyond your imagination. It is definitely not the private army you see now. This means that there are 2 troops stationed in this barrier. Although there is a nominal manager in the barrier, the power of this manager is probably in name only. If you don't resist, you will be allowed to enjoy wealth and glory as a puppet. But there is one thing I don't understand, Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. Why don't they directly control the barrier and be the manager? It's like taking off your pants to fart if they have to support puppets. Because there's more than one Qing consortium in the world, Luo Zinayu said. At this point, Ren Xiaosu understood that there were several consortiums in the more than 100 refuge barriers. They jointly controlled the barriers but restrained each other, and then seized resources in a strange cooperation mode. So the tobacco was provided to the number 113 barrier by the Qing consortium. Ren Xiaosu asked. The update time may not be stable these 2 days, sorry, please give me a recommendation vote. Chapter 67 You are not nothing. The tobacco that the private army gets is transported from other places by the Qing consortium. You should have seen the truck convoys, and the materials transported are nothing but tobacco, Luo Zinayu said. In fact, other barriers are almost the same. Although the barrier managers know that they are puppets, there are always a few who want to break free from the shackles. Ren Xiaosu nodded. It seems that he cannot measure the strength of the consortium by the strength of the private army. Today, Ren Xiaosu has received enough information from Luo Zinayu, and he needs to digest it first. The last question, Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, why did you choose someone like Liu Bu as your agent? Luo Zinayu is not stupid. Why did he choose Liu Bu? Luo Zinayu explained, he is the younger brother of a section chief of the logistics department in the barrier. Ren Xiaosu roughly understood some of the reasons, but he still didn't understand what power a section chief of the logistics department could have. At this time, Luo Zinayu felt that he was closer to Yang Xiaojin and Ren Xiaosu. She hesitated for a moment and said, can you take me out alive? I have nothing in this wilderness. I can only rely on you. Ren Xiaosu shook his head and said, you are not without anything. Luo Zinayu was stunned. What do you mean? You still have the nerve to ask me to take you out alive? Ren Xiaosu ignored Luo Zinayu after saying that. On this dark rainy night, Ren Xiaosu left Luo Zinayu alone in the wind. She was not without anything. She still had the nerve. What kind of language level is this? Are you speaking the same language? Only then did Luo Zinayu realize that her so-called close relationship was all an illusion. In fact, Ren Xiaosu felt that Luo Zinayu was quite pitiful. A girl in this wilderness could not trust anyone, and there was not even one person willing to help her. There were only private army soldiers around her who wanted to take advantage of her. But who wouldn't be pitiful? Isn't Yan Liuan, who is now in the market town and during the backlash of making a wish, pitiful? If Ren Xiaosu agreed to take others out at this time, it would be equivalent to being irresponsible to Yan Liuan. As long as Ren Xiaosu relies more and more on luck, Yan Liuan will inevitably suffer a more serious backlash. Although Yan Liuan usually just has a headache, the problem is that if Ren Xiaosu uses luck to escape the catastrophe of life and death, I am afraid that the backlash Yan Liuan suffers will not be so simple. This is a conserved ability. The luckier one party is, the more unlucky the other party will be. When Yan Liuan made a wish for Ren Xiaosu, it meant that he handed his life to Ren Xiaosu. Therefore, even for Yan Liuan, Ren Xiaosu could not agree to save others and get out together. Others' lives are not as valuable as Yan Liuan's. In the middle of the night, Yang Xiaojin woke up. She looked at Ren Xiaosu and said, you go to sleep. Ren Xiaosu nodded and began to close his eyes to sleep. He hadn't closed his eyes for nearly 30 hours, and even his current physical fitness was a bit overwhelmed. While half asleep and half awake, Ren Xiaosu kept circling a question in his mind. What is Yang Xiaojin's identity? Is she affiliated with the so-called combat brigade of the Qing group? No, if he belonged to that combat brigade, he shouldn't have hidden his identity and joined the team, and he also paid money to Luo Zinayu and the others. In Ren Xiaosu's opinion, if the combat brigade of the Qing group stationed at the number 113 rampart sent someone to perform the mission together, then the private army would have to worship him like a god. After all, that was the power that truly controlled the life and death of the rampart. Ren Xiaosu couldn't figure out Yang Xiaojin's purpose, so he could only temporarily doubt Yang Xiaojin's identity. The cave was quiet in the early morning. Yang Xiaojin felt her full spirit after waking up. She had received relevant training, so she had a sleeping method beyond the imagination of ordinary people, and could even stay alert in her sleep. This is something that ordinary people cannot understand, just as ordinary people still cannot understand extraordinary people today. The rain outside gradually stopped. As Ren Xiaosu said, the forest ground became particularly muddy after the rain. I'm afraid someone will fall behind on tomorrow's journey. There were still soldiers from the private army in the cave who were not asleep and were whispering to each other. Liu Bu opened his mouth to drink water. It was his turn only when everyone else had almost finished drinking. Yang Xiaojin peeled the pine cones left over from the night before, squeezed the pine nuts inside and put them into her mouth one by one to replenish the nutrients she needed. At this time, Yang Xiaojin, who was sitting opposite Ren Xiaosu, ate pine nuts while looking at Ren Xiaosu who was sleeping. Was he really asleep or was he half asleep? As a result, Yang Xiaojin heard Ren Xiaosu snoring. Not only did she hear it, but the whole cave could hear it. The sound was too loud. At this time, two soldiers from the private army stood up and said to Su Xianshu, we will take turns with you. You can rest. Su Xianshu nodded, pay attention and don't let your guard down. Don't worry, one of the soldiers from the private army replied. The two men walked slowly towards the entrance of the cave, as if they were going to keep watch at the entrance of the cave. Yang Xiaojun lowered her head, her eyes hidden under her cap. When she saw the two soldiers, her lips curled up slightly, because at this time she noticed that Ren Xiaosu's snoring had stopped. But the two soldiers didn't seem to notice anything yet. One of them chatted, "I don't know if we can go back alive." "Who knows?" the other one replied. The two people's chat was just like a normal conversation, but when they just walked up to Yang Xiaojun and Ren Xiaosu, they suddenly attacked. At this time, the rain had stopped and everything was silent. The two soldiers took out their bayonets on the left and right, and they were going to attack Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun respectively. In 3 steps, who is faster, the man or the gun? Many people have discussed this issue, and everyone thinks that in 3 steps, the man may be faster. Now the two sneak attackers are only 1 step away from Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun respectively. At this distance, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun have no chance to draw their guns. They were not stupid, so they found the early morning when Ren Xiaosu had just fallen asleep and Yang Xiaojun had just woken up. When people just woke up, their muscles would be tired. This was not because they were in poor health, but because their body functions had not yet fully functioned. This sneak attack might be for the guns on Yang Xiaojun and Ren Xiaosu, or for the water, or for Luo Xinyu, but they did not know what kind of opponent they were facing. Bang! After a gunshot, the soldier opposite Yang Xiaojun looked at the bloody hole in his abdomen in disbelief. He clearly saw Yang Xiaojun peeling pine nuts and did not take out the gun at all. Why was Yang Xiaojun so much faster than him? The attacker on the other side cried out in pain. Just as he approached Ren Xiaosu and showed the military bayonet in his hand, Ren Xiaosu stood up and grabbed his neck like a sudden burst of lightning in the air. The attacker wanted to stab the military bayonet in his hand into Ren Xiaosu's body, but at this time he found that his arm was also grabbed by Ren Xiaosu and could not move at all. The 170-pound adult male was lifted up by Ren Xiaosu's hand by the neck. Then the attacker's eyes blurred and he felt a huge pain in his back. Ren Xiaosu had pushed him against a rock wall with one hand. With a clang, the attacker could no longer hold the bayonet in his hand. Chapter 68 Master Level Skill Learning Map. The others who were sleeping soundly were all awakened by the battle that broke out in this short moment. The huge gunshots echoed in the cave, and everyone felt as if there was an explosion in their ears. Those who just woke up didn't even know what happened. The gray shadow behind Su Xianchu had already materialized, and he was standing by his side without moving. The temperature of Yang Xiaojun's gun muzzle was cooling rapidly, while the blood of the private soldier opposite her was cooling rapidly. This was the first time Yang Xiaojun actually fired a gun during the trip. It seemed that no one expected her will to be so resolute and decisive. Moreover, she looked very calm when killing people, as if drinking water was commonplace. But in fact, it was not Yang Xiaojun who caused a huge visual impact on others, but Ren Xiaosu. It only took a moment for the gun to be fired. In a flash like thunder, the bullet had entered the human body. The huge rotational kinetic energy to tear the muscles and internal organs until the moment when the kinetic energy was completely exhausted, it finally stopped. But the scene of the bullet in the human body was invisible to outsiders, and the person who was shot could not see it himself. Ren Xiaosu was different. The scene of him holding an adult male hostage with one hand was too violent. Ren Xiaosu was only 1.78 meters tall. At the age of 17, his body was far from fully developed. Therefore, neither Su Xianchu, Liu Bu, nor Yang Xiaojun cared about Ren Xiaosu's combat ability. In their opinion, how much strength could a malnourished refugee boy in the market town have? He just honed some survival skills in the wilderness. Ren Xiaosu had never taken action, and Yang Xiaojun had never fired a gun, so everyone had only a vague judgment of the two people's strength, which was also the reason why the sneak attackers took action. However, what they didn't expect was that this vague judgment was actually wrong to the extreme. Ren Xiaosu's fingers clamped the sneak attacker's neck like an iron clamp. The sneak attacker felt that the blood could no longer supply the brain. He could actually kick Ren Xiaosu's vital parts with his feet, but at this moment his mind was blank and his hands and feet were twitching unconsciously. Yang Xiaojun didn't look at the private soldier who fell in front of her, but looked at Ren Xiaosu quietly. She had already clenched 2 guns in her hands, pointing them at everyone in the cave. But she was also a little confused. Ren Xiaosu had clearly fallen asleep before. His snoring might be fake, but his eyelids couldn't be faked. The training she had received even included the judgment of true and false sleep. A person can pretend to sleep, but the mind will subconsciously move the eyelids. A person who is not asleep cannot control his eyelids for a long time. So she knew that Ren Xiaosu was really asleep. But the moment the attackers got up, Ren Xiaosu's snoring disappeared, proving that he had woken up at that moment. How can a person who enters a deep sleep always stay alert? Ren Xiaosu, a refugee, could not have received the same training as her. The happiest time of the day for Yan Liun, who was far away in the market town, was actually when he kept watch for Ren Xiaosu, because at that time he felt that he was needed by Ren Xiaosu, and he could do something for Ren Xiaosu. Although he couldn't go hunting with Ren Xiaosu because he had to keep watch, he still felt that the profession of night watchman was of great significance to him. But Yan Liun didn't know that Ren Xiaosu actually didn't need others to keep watch since the palace appeared. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu in Yang Xiaojin's eyes showed supernatural power. A thin boy had such power? Even Yang Xiaojin didn't expect it. The private soldier who fell in a pool of blood struggled and said, "Sun Zhang, do it." But the soldier named Sun Zhang curled up in the cave and didn't dare to say a word. Su Xianchu frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Ren Xiaosu ignored him, but stared at the sneak attackers. He found pine cones and pine needles for these people and gave them the water source in the cave. Although he had his own thoughts, the result was good. Ren Xiaosu had long discovered that these people were plotting something. He originally thought that these people would have a little bottom line, at least these people would be a little more restrained. He didn't try to ask the sneak attackers what they were after: water? Gun? Luo Zinao? Ren Xiaosu felt that there was no need to scream and ask why like a betrayed person, because he didn't need an answer. Without trust, there was naturally no betrayal. In Ren Xiaosu's eyes, these teammates were no different from wild beasts. Ren Xiaosu didn't immediately break the attacker's neck, just because he wanted to see how Su Xianchu would react. But at this time, the palace said in his mind, "Mission, give the enemy a quick death." This time Ren Xiaosu was really stunned. Isn't this a palace that advocates doing good things? How come it suddenly killed so decisively? Ren Xiaosu always took advantage of the loopholes in the mission in the past, but this time he was a little uncomfortable. Could it be that for this palace, not torturing the enemy can also be considered a good thing? Your bottom line is dropping too fast. But Ren Xiaosu knew that this palace had no consciousness, and it must have its internal mechanism for issuing such a mission. With a muffled sound, Ren Xiaosu simply broke the attacker's neck. Sun Zhang in the cave trembled after hearing the muffled sound. "It's none of my business. I didn't tell them that you are very strong." Bang! Yang Xiaojin shot him in the middle of his eyebrows, and Sun Zhang didn't have time to finish his unfinished words. Ren Xiaosu turned his head to look at Yang Xiaojin, who said calmly at this time, "Hiding the crime is equivalent to the same crime." Ren Xiaosu took a breath. Yang Xiaojin meant that although Sun Zhang didn't tell the attacker that Ren Xiaosu was very strong, he knew that the attacker was going to commit a crime, but he never reminded Ren Xiaosu, so in order to avoid hidden dangers, Sun Zhang also deserved to die. Ren Xiaosu felt that even if he repeatedly refreshed his understanding of Yang Xiaojin's cruelty and decisiveness in killing still exceeded his expectations. However, he didn't think Yang Xiaojin was wrong. Overnight, the original 11-man team became 6 people, leaving only Su Xianchu, Ren Xiaosu, Luo Zinao, Liu Bu, Wang Lei, and Yang Xiaojin. Mission completed. Reward for Master Level Skill Learning Map. Ren Xiaosu used this Master Level Learning Map on Su Xianchu without thinking. Compared with Yang Xiaojin's gun skills, the significance of his promotion from Advanced to Master was not too great, so at this moment he needed Su Xianchu's ability more. The target's Master Level skills or supernatural abilities will be randomly extracted. If you do not have the corresponding advanced skills after extracting the Master Level skills, you will not be able to learn. The target has been determined to have no Master Level skills, and the supernatural ability Shadow has been extracted. Do you want to learn it? Ren Xiaosu was ecstatic. It turned out that if the opponent did not have a Master Level skill, could he directly extract the supernatural ability? He thought the probability was very small. Learn it Shadow. Ren Xiaosu felt the newly reproduced skills, and he actually found that there was a shadow of himself standing quietly in the palace. But what surprised Ren Xiaosu was that Su Xianchu's shadow was gray, while his was black. What was going on? Was it because his face was darker because he hadn't washed it? Please recommend. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, It's Your Own Fault. The atmosphere in the cave fell to the freezing point. 2 team members had just disappeared for no reason at night. This incident had already made everyone feel heavy-hearted, but no one expected that there would be a fight between the two. Su Xianshu, Luo Zinayu, Liu Bu, and Wang Lei probably understood that the 2 soldiers from the private army seemed to want to attack Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin, but Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin solved the battle in an instant. The speed of this battle was unimaginable. This battle also made Su Xianshu re-examine the 2 people in front of him. He sighed and said, "This can be regarded as their own fault." Ren Xiaosu did not speak. After thinking about it, he realized that Su Xianshu had no motive to do this. If it was for the gun, then Su Xianshu's own guns, whether rifles or pistols, were not lost. If it was to occupy Luo Zinayu, then Su Xianshu had a chance long ago. After all, Luo Zinayu had thrown herself into his arms before, but Su Xianshu never paid any attention to Luo Zinayu. If it was for water, Su Xianshu had just received a pot of water in the evening, so there was no need to worry about Ren Xiaosu's 2 bottles of water. The reason why Ren Xiaosu was worried was that Su Xianshu would take action for the order of the team, but in the end it turned out that Su Xianshu did not want to be involved in this dispute. Su Xianshu's ultimate goal was to explore the mystery of Jingshan Mountain and the mystery of the evolution of the creatures in Jingshan Mountain, rather than taking other people out. But Sun Zhang's crime is not punishable by death. Su Xianshu sighed again. Forget it, there is no right or wrong in this wilderness. Ren Xiaosu felt that Su Xianshu had already understood the principle of survival in this wilderness. There is no right or wrong, only survival is the truth. He didn't want to say that Yang Xiaojin was right to do this, but it was absolutely right to do things without leaving hidden dangers. Ren Xiaosu carried the 3 bodies and threw them outside the cave. He said to Su Xianshu and Yang Xiaojin, "I have never been able to figure out how Su Xia's body disappeared. This time I can observe it closely." He said to Yang Xiaojin, "Call me if there is anything unusual." After that, he sat down against the rock wall and continued to sleep. The others looked at Ren Xiaosu and felt that this guy was really careless. He had just killed someone, why did he look like nothing happened and could fall asleep directly? Wasn't it you who killed someone just now? In fact, Ren Xiaosu was not sleeping at this time. He was just looking inward at his palace, because there was a black shadow in the palace, which made Ren Xiaosu lose interest in sleep. You know, he has always envied Su Xianshu, and even a little envious of Zhang Baojin's ability to spit bubbles. Although the bubbles looked weak, Ren Xiaosu suspected that the power of the bubbles could still be improved. Is there room for improvement for the extraordinary? He thought there must be. As for him, although it looks intimidating to have a palace, the problem is that he has been improving his strength and agility, and he doesn't look like a real extraordinary at all. After all, some people can also reach his current strength after a long period of training. So before he copied Su Xianshu's shadow, he could not be considered a true extraordinary person, at least not in terms of combat ability. Su Xianshu's shadow that could block bullets has been coveted by Ren Xiaosu for a long time. In Ren Xiaosu's opinion, thermal weapons are very terrifying. The initial velocity of the bullets can reach the speed of sound, or even multiple times the speed of sound. Ordinary people have no room to fight back when facing firearms. So in Ren Xiaosu's opinion, being afraid of thermal weapons is at least a standard dividing line for extraordinary people. Of course, Ren Xiaosu is not fearless of all thermal weapons. He will still die if he is attacked by surprise. At this time, the black shadow stood quietly beside the palace typewriter without moving. Ren Xiaosu looked carefully and found that the outline of the shadow was clearly his own, just a little blurry. Why is Su Xianshu's gray and his black? They are obviously copied directly. Is there any difference? At this time, Ren Xiaosu tried to control the black shadow to move around in the palace, and then he immediately realized the strength of this shadow seemed to be closely related to his own strength. This is a spiritual connection. Ren Xiaosu didn't even need to experiment to know that it seemed to be born from Ren Xiaosu's spiritual will. The strength and speed of this shadow are twice that of Ren Xiaosu, and even the body density is twice that of Ren Xiaosu. No wonder it can resist bullets. Even an ordinary person can resist bullets, but ordinary people will die, but it won't. During Ren Xiaosu's exploration, he found that the use time of this shadow is determined by mental strength. As long as your mental will is sufficient, you can use it all the time. But Ren Xiaosu is a little curious, how to calculate something as illusory as mental strength. He tried to ask the palace, "What is my mental strength?" The palace replied, "No authority to tell." Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. His master-level wilderness survival can be determined, strength can be determined, and agility can be determined, but why can't it be determined when it comes to mental strength? Is there no standard for determining mental strength, or is there any reason for this? Since there is no answer for the time being, Ren Xiaosu will not think about it anymore and go to sleep. However, Ren Xiaosu probably knew why Su Xianchu's shadow was gray and his was black, because his body was stronger than Su Xianchu's, so his shadow was more solid. The morning sun shone on Ren Xiaosu's face. He opened his eyes and looked at the place where he had discarded the bodies. What surprised him was that the three bodies had not changed at all. No wonder Yang Xiaojun didn't wake him up halfway. It turned out that nothing unusual happened. If it didn't happen, it didn't happen. You can't always expect something dangerous. At this time, he turned his eyes to the cave and happened to meet Liu Bu's eyes. However, Liu Bu had long lost the arrogance he had when he just came out of the barrier, and began to dodge. Liu Bu didn't sleep well that night. He was just a bully. When he knew that Ren Xiaosu had such a strong strength, he began to panic. He couldn't help but panic. He, Luo Zhenyu, and Wang Lei were all shocked to find that there were only a few people in this team, but except for the three of them, they were all monsters. Su Xianchu had already stood up and stood outside the cave. He looked at the forest in front of him and wondered what he was thinking. Ren Xiaosu walked to Wang Lei's side. Wang Lei, who was lying on the stretcher, subconsciously wanted to retreat, but he was not as fast as Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu lifted his shirt and looked at the wound Wang Lei had been stabbed by Su Xianchu and said, "It's okay, get up and walk by yourself. Your wound has healed." Wang Lei suddenly realized at this time that his wound didn't hurt at all. Could it be that Ren Xiaosu's bottle of black medicine was so effective? Chapter 70 Collection Authority. When Su Xianchu returned to the cave, he saw Wang Lei looking at his wound. He asked Ren Xiaosu curiously, "Do you still have that medicine?" Because Wang Lei was his guinea pig, Su Xianchu was already very clear about the importance of the black medicine. If he got hurt in the wilderness, he would probably be able to increase his chances of survival with this black medicine. "No more," Ren Xiaosu said subconsciously. "I'll pay for it," Su Xianchu said. "Then there's still some," Ren Xiaosu replied. If he had exchanged it for something else, he might not be willing to exchange it for money. After all, there was no place to spend money in the wilderness, but black medicine was different. But Ren Xiaosu suddenly thought of a question, "Don't you have no money?" Su Xianchu said, "The three people you killed had some on them. I took it out." Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe. It was because of his lack of experience that he didn't even touch the corpse. How could he make such a low-level mistake? It turned out that Su Xianchu went outside to touch the corpse just now. This guy was really patient. He was afraid of danger at night, so he waited until dawn to go. Ren Xiaosu said bitterly, "This is not your money, this is clearly my money. At least give me half." Su Xianchu thought for a moment and said, "It's no use for me to ask for money here. As long as you give me that black medicine, I will give you all the more than 8,000 yuan I have on me." Ren Xiaosu felt even more distressed when he heard that the three of them actually had more than 8,000 yuan on them. However, Ren Xiaosu looked at Su Xianchu seriously. This guy is actually a player who doesn't love money? He took out the half bottle of black medicine left for Wang Lei and stuffed it into Su Xianchu, "Money." Here, Su Xianchu took out all the money and gave it to Ren Xiaosu, and even deliberately looked through his trouser pockets to prove that he really didn't have much money on him. Ren Xiaosu nodded with satisfaction. Although he was not familiar with Su Xianchu, in fact, Su Xianchu's actions along the way were indeed quite authentic. But just when Ren Xiaosu took over the 8,000 yuan, the palace in his mind said, "It is detected that the host has enough money on him for 20,000 yuan, which can be used to purchase the primary storage permission. When Ren Xiaosu treated Wang Lei's injury before, Wang Lei paid 1,200 yuan himself, Luo Zinayu gave him 10,000 yuan, and now he got more than 8,900 yuan from Su Xianshu, so Ren Xiaosu's cash reached 20,000 yuan. But this time Ren Xiaosu was really confused. He had been anxious to unlock the storage function of the palace before, but the palace never said how to get the permission. He guessed that it might be to complete a certain task, or another side task, similar to unlocking weapons. But he never thought that this storage function would cost money. Why do you need money for an illusory palace? Ren Xiaosu's savings in his life have never reached 10,000 yuan, but this 10,000 yuan was just in hand and he had to spend it. It was really like going back to the pre-liberation era overnight. This money had to be spent. Ren Xiaosu knew the importance of having a storage space in the wilderness. He gritted his teeth and said to the palace in his mind, "Buy. Purchase successful. Unlock primary storage permissions." At this moment, a door appeared in the palace. The door slowly opened. At this time, Ren Xiaosu saw that behind the door was a wall with a cubic meter grid embedded in the middle of the wall. This is too much of a ripoff, 20,000 yuan to buy such a small space? What did the palace say just now? Oh, right, unlock primary storage permissions. Does that mean that I have to buy intermediate and advanced storage permissions in the future? The space behind this door may become a larger space after multiple purchases, such as a real house? But how much money would that cost? Ren Xiaosu didn't know if he could make that much money in his lifetime. At this time, Ren Xiaosu felt that it was great to be able to make 20,000 yuan. Ren Xiaosu was in pain and happy. To be honest, he gained more today than in the past few days. He went outside to break off a branch and peel off the bark. He used the white branch inside to scrape his teeth. Although he didn't need to wash his face, he had to keep his teeth clean and fresh. Because if he wanted to live comfortably in the wilderness, his teeth had to be good. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu found that Yang Xiaojun and Su Xianshu also followed suit and broke branches to brush their teeth. The two had a very positive attitude towards survival. Basically, they learned from whatever Ren Xiaosu did. Ren Xiaosu suddenly grabbed a handful of leaves and stuffed them into his pocket. As a result, Su Xianshu and Yang Xiaojun also found the same tree and picked a handful of leaves and stuffed them into their pockets. As the saying goes, there must be a teacher among three people. When Su Xianshu and the others found that Ren Xiaosu had much more experience in surviving in the wild than them, their first reaction was to learn. Only learning could make them, like Ren Xiaosu, live more comfortably in the wilderness. But Su Xianshu was a little curious. What's the use of this leaf? Ren Xiaosu happily took out a leaf and threw it away. It's useless. I just want to see if you can learn from me. Su Xianshu. Su Xianshu looked at Ren Xiaosu for a long time without saying anything. He stubbornly didn't take out a leaf and throw it away. He picked a leaf because he wanted to, definitely not because he wanted to learn from Ren Xiaosu. But Yang Xiaojun was different. Yang Xiaojun grabbed another handful of leaves and stuffed them into his pocket as if no one was around. The psychological quality of Su Xianshu, Yang Xiaojun, and Ren Xiaosu was obviously much better than that of Luo Zinayu and the others. They saw so many life and death events last night, but Ren Xiaosu and the other three could still face it calmly, and didn't seem to take these things to heart. But Luo Zinayu and the others couldn't do it. When Ren Xiaosu and the others walked out of the cave to brush their teeth, Luo Zinayu and the others didn't dare to go out because they were afraid of the three corpses outside. Luo Zinayu, Liu Bu, and Wang Lei had to do half an hour of psychological preparation before they finally dared to come out. They couldn't figure out why you were still laughing. Let's get ready to go, Su Xianshu said. Although we don't know what danger we are facing, it is not a good idea to stay here. Before the next night comes, we must find a suitable place to camp tonight. I hope everyone will not act alone. After all, you have seen the consequences of acting alone. They are now on the outskirts of Jingshan mountain range. Ren Xiaosu can even see the black smoke spewing out from the active volcano in Jingshan. The deeper they go, the more dangerous it will be. What do you think exists in Jingshan? Ren Xiaosu asked doubtfully. Su Xianshu thought for a while and said, maybe it contains the mystery of the evolution of wild animals, or perhaps the source of the new species order. When you came out of the barrier, did they tell you what the ruins that might exist here are? Ren Xiaosu asked. Su Xianshu no longer concealed. A Mysterious City. Chapter 71. Ren Xiaosu's Perfect Skills. When Ren Xiaosu squatted on the wall of the school to listen to the class, he had heard Zhang Jinglin tell some strange stories, among which there were some disappeared cities. In fact, sometimes Ren Xiaosu recalled that Zhang Jinglin didn't seem to be so serious. When this gentleman was tired of teaching, he would move a chair to sit on the podium and talk about some interesting anecdotes to make up for the number. But Ren Xiaosu thought this was normal. After all, there was only one gentleman, Zhang Jinglin, in the whole town. It was really a bit difficult for him to teach all the classes every day. At that time, among the anecdotes that Mr. Zhang told, he once described an ancient city in an uninhabited area. The ancient city was prosperous for a while but suddenly declined. Zhang Jinglin said that there seemed to be demons near the declining ancient city. At that time, Ren Xiaosu thought to himself, I don't believe you. If you don't want to teach, don't talk about demons. How can there really be demons in this world? But Ren Xiaosu now believes it a little. In fact, Zhang Jinglin should not be very old, only about 30 years old. Ren Xiaosu heard Wang Fuga say that Zhang Jinglin also came from another place a long time ago, but no one could remember how long ago. Sometimes Ren Xiaosu would wonder if Zhang Jinglin was a member of the fortress before and later became a refugee. Otherwise, how could he know so many things, even if some of them were made up? Now Su Xianchu said that there was a mysterious city hidden in Jingshan, and Ren Xiaosu subconsciously recalled what Zhang Jinglin had said. So would there be monsters in Jingshan? Ren Xiaosu asked Su Xianchu, didn't he say anything else? Su Xianchu thought about it carefully and said, also, before we set out, Wang Konggyang seemed to have asked someone to find out that not only the number 113 fortress had obtained the news of Jingshan, but it seemed that other teams were also on their way to Jingshan. Ren Xiaosu thought Su Xianchu was going to tell him some secrets, but it turned out to be this. In fact, whether it is the barrier managers or the consortium, everyone is very interested in topics such as evolution and extraordinary people. Su Xianchu said, you should also know about the newly established mental hospital in the barrier. They study extraordinary people not only for prevention, but also for use. Can you talk about extraordinary people? Ren Xiaosu said, as an extraordinary person yourself, you should be very concerned about this. Extraordinary people. Su Xianchu pondered, in fact, there have been extraordinary people a long time ago, but at that time everyone regarded them as legends. Recently, everyone has paid attention to them because extraordinary people have begun to appear frequently, and even some places have appeared very hidden extraordinary organizations. Ren Xiaosu is stunned for a moment. They are all organized. Having an organization means that the number of extraordinary people is not small. You have heard about the extraordinary assassination of the barrier manager some time ago? Su Xianchu said, this news was told to me by Wang Konggyang. He said that the extraordinary person belonged to an organization called Thugs, at least that's what the extraordinary person himself said. Has he been caught? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. No, Su Xianchu shook his head, his strength is far beyond your imagination. Now all the major barriers are targeting the extraordinary people. It seems that they are still rating the danger factor of these extraordinary people, but we don't know how to rate them. Ren Xiaosu muttered, why do you have to fight to the death? Can't we just get along well? He said this because he felt the same way. Ren Xiaosu himself was an extraordinary person. Now he suddenly stood on the opposite side of those behemoths. He must be a little upset. Yang Xiaojun glanced at him but didn't say anything. Su Xianchu sighed, it's impossible for me to go back. If the barriers knew that I was an extraordinary person, my end would be miserable. Liu Bu next to him suddenly said, we won't reveal your secret, don't worry. To be honest, Liu Bu was a little worried that he would be silenced, so he quickly expressed his position. Su Xianchu glanced at Liu Bu but didn't say anything. He could see that he was still a person with a bottom line and would not do such a thing as silencing. But who would believe Liu Bu's guarantee? It would be too stupid to trust Liu Bu. Su Xianchu rarely said to Liu Bu, among these people, the one I am most worried about is you. Ren Xiaosu asked, then if Liu Bu dies in an accident, can't you go back? Liu Bu. And curse like that? Liu Bu wanted to scold Ren Xiaosu, but he didn't dare. Su Xianchu sighed on the side, you are also a superhuman, right? Ren Xiaosu, ah. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu wondered if he had revealed something, and Yang Xiaojun had seen through it. At this time, Su Xianchu said, "You must have awakened the ability to irritate people." Ren Xiaosu. But at this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and he asked Guangdian in his mind, "Guangdian, do I have the skill of irritating people? What level?" Guangdian said calmly, "Perfect." Ren Xiaosu. It turned out to be perfect level. Before, Ren Xiaosu was very impressed when he found out that Yang Xiaojun had perfect level skills, but he didn't expect that he also had them. But compared with his perfect level skills, it was too ridiculous. "Guangdian, are you serious?" Exclamation mark. But thinking that he also had perfect skills, Ren Xiaosu felt a little happy in his heart. After all, it was a perfect skill. Someone said that it was not easy to do one thing well in life. I didn't expect that at such a young age. I had already done one thing to the extreme. Su Xianchu glanced at the three corpses outside the cave, and finally said, "Let's go. No matter what is hidden in this mountain, I will go and see it eventually." This is the desire of a transcendent. People used to think that those legendary things were nothingness, but when they began to approach the legend, they would have a desire for that wider world. Su Xianchu was like this, and so was Ren Xiaosu. Su Xianchu said, "I don't know if you have read a book called Journey to the West. I saw it in the library of the barrier. At that time, I felt it was incredible when I saw in the book that someone could lift a stick weighing 13,500 kilograms. Now I wonder if all the characters in the book exist? It is said that the stick can suppress mountains." Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment and said, "There is this book in the school in the town, but it is a bit problematic for you to say that more than 13,500 kilograms can suppress mountains. It is only a thing of more than 6 tons. The agricultural tractors in the factory outside the town have a load-bearing capacity of 10 tons. It is no problem to overload and pull 2 sticks." Su Xianchu took a deep breath and turned to walk towards the forest, towards the unknown Jingshan. Chapter 72 Ghost. After entering the forest, Ren Xiaosu deliberately looked for signs of a fight, because the mystery of the disappearance of the 2 private army soldiers last night had not been solved, so Ren Xiaosu wanted to see what happened to the 2 people. A heavy rain washed away the footprints of the 2 people, which made it very difficult for Ren Xiaosu to find traces. Without footprints, he could only observe leaves and branches. The density of this forest is extremely high, and there are dense shrubs under the huge canopy. If 2 people want to pass through the forest, they will inevitably break some branches and leaves, which cannot be washed away by rain. Ren Xiaosu followed some slightly broken branches to find, but the traces only lasted for more than 10 meters before disappearing. After Su Xianchu realized what Ren Xiaosu was looking for, he asked, "Did you find anything?" "No," Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "The traces stopped here, and they didn't go any further. The 2 people must have been afraid at the time, so it was normal that they didn't dare to go too far away from the cave. It just didn't make sense. The 2 people were only more than 10 meters away from the cave. If there was an accident here, the people in the cave couldn't have heard it, even if there was rain at the time. So the biggest possibility is that the 2 people came here to relieve themselves, and they encountered something that caught them off guard, and they didn't even have the chance to make a sound." Ren Xiaosu looked at the surrounding trees. There was not even a piece of bark on the tree trunks. There was no fight, no struggle, nothing. The fear of the unknown is the real fear. "Let's go," Su Xianchu said. "In this case, we need a safe camping site, even if it means ending the day's trip early." Ren Xiaosu agreed with Su Xianchu's point of view. It would be best if it was similar to the cave last night. Although we don't know what happened, since we have nothing to do in the cave, it would be best if we could find a similar cave to camp tonight. The sky did not clear up after the rain, and it was unknown when the rain would start again. As the saying goes, every autumn rain brings a chill, and this rain temporarily suppressed the heat when approaching the volcanic group. The group walked in the forest with difficulty. Ren Xiaosu suggested that Su Xianchu walk to a place with as few puddles as possible. These days, any ant has become as big as a fingertip, and even ghost things like human-faced insects have emerged. At this time, if something gets involved with something like a leech, it might be fatal. The clothes they were wearing could not block the mouth parts of the leech. How can insects grow so big? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously, "What on earth is this human-faced insect?" Su Xianchu thought for a moment and said, "No matter how strange human-faced insects are, they cannot escape the limitations of insects. Their body structure means they cannot have a huge body like mammals, and the oxygen supply is completely insufficient. So I suspect that the oxygen content in the air here is very high, which allows them to grow. Did you notice that although our bodies are very tired, we are in good spirits and our minds are clearer? This is clearly the reaction when we breathe oxygen. Ren Xiaosu felt that Su Xianchu's analysis made sense. It was not only due to evolution, but also had some scientific reasons. Wait, Ren Xiaosu is stunned for a moment. Is the oxygen more because the plants are also mutating and evolving? The plants near our barrier are also growing stronger. Will there be insect plagues outside in the future? Very likely, Su Xianchu said. The difference in physical strength of each person can be seen during the journey. Ren Xiaosu was very relaxed. With his current physical strength, he could walk through the forest without any pressure and would not feel tired at all. Although Su Xianchu is a superhuman, his physical fitness does not seem to have improved much. Su Xianchu himself admitted that his physical fitness has been gradually improving since he became a superhuman. But it seems that this is a slow growth process, so Su Xianchu's physical fitness is not yet as strong as Ren Xiaosu's. Su Xianchu said, "Since I awakened and became a superhuman, I found that every time I exercise to the limit, my physical fitness will increase again." Ren Xiaosu thought to himself, "There's still this, can I try it in the future? But that will have to wait until we return to the market town. If we challenge the limit here, we may die a little faster." Liu Bu, Luo Zinayu, and Wang Lei are miserable. Their clothes are a little damaged. When they left the barrier, they were all white and clean, but now their faces are pitch black, almost the same as Ren Xiaosu. But they dare not fall behind, because they are afraid that Ren Xiaosu, Su Xianchu, and Yang Xiaojun will not wait for them, and then only death will be waiting for them. What surprised Ren Xiaosu the most at this moment was Yang Xiaojun. He suddenly found that although Yang Xiaojun was also a little tired, her condition was much better than Su Xianchu. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly saw the gray shadow in Su Xianchu's body come out. Ren Xiaosu immediately focused his attention and was on guard. He thought Su Xianchu had discovered some danger. As a result, he watched Su Xianchu climb onto the back of the gray shadow without paying attention to anyone else and let the gray shadow carry him. This scene stunned Ren Xiaosu. This is cheating. Since Su Xianchu revealed that he was a superhuman, Su Xianchu liked to use his abilities more and more. Before, he was used to hiding, so sometimes he even forgot to use his abilities. The physical fitness of this gray shadow was twice that of Su Xianchu. Walking in this forest was like walking on flat ground. If Ren Xiaosu didn't want to expose the fact that he had copied Su Xianchu's shadow, Ren Xiaosu himself would have wanted to use the shadow to carry himself away. Liu Bu, Luo Zinayu and Wang Lei were in despair. It was really annoying to compare with others. Why didn't they awaken and become extraordinary people? Suddenly, Su Xianchu's gray shadow stopped in front of them. This time, Ren Xiaosu was really nervous because he found that Su Xianchu's muscles were tense up, like a cat with its fur standing on end. Su Xianchu slowly got off the gray shadow's back to prevent himself from slowing down the gray shadow. He whispered, "Look ahead." Ren Xiaosu looked at the dark and gloomy woods in front of him. In the shadows of the dense leaves in the woods, there seemed to be something white in front of him. What is that?" Liu Bu asked tremblingly. When he asked the question, he had subconsciously hidden behind Luo Zinayu and Wang Lei, hiding at the end of the team. Su Xianchu looked carefully. He hesitated and said, "Look, does that white shadow look like a woman in white clothes, scratching a tree?" Ren Xiaosu's hair stood up. This scene was too weird. Chapter 73 Civilization Before the Catastrophic Event. In the gloomy woods, the sound of leaves rubbing against each other was like some terrifying creature shuttling through the treetops. Everyone held their breath as they looked at the strange white figure in front of them, as if they were afraid that their anger would provoke the other party. Why would a woman scratch the tree with her back to them in such a place? No one could figure it out. But the more they couldn't figure it out, the deeper the fear in their hearts became. Ren Xiaosu found that Yang Xiaojun beside him was also so nervous for the first time. He could see that the other party's lips were pursed, and the other party's hand holding the gun looked a little white because of excessive force. Su Xianchu's gray shadow was right in front of him, as if he was on guard against the woman in white suddenly pounced on him, but the woman was still dozens of meters away from them. "Let's take a detour," Ren Xiaosu whispered, "maybe she won't follow us." As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind blew in the woods, and the body of the woman in white seemed to float up out of thin air. Su Xianchu gritted his teeth and said, "We can't hide. If this little devil can stop us, why go to Jingshan?" As he said that, Su Xianchu actually drove the gray shadows one after another towards the woman in white. Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin looked at each other. They didn't expect Su Xianchu to be so brave in this situation. Some people usually talk big, but they are guilty, nervous, and timid when facing big things. But some people are different. The more dangerous they are, the calmer they are, and there is a fierceness in their bones. "Follow," Ren Xiaosu said. The next moment, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin followed Su Xianchu tacitly. They were now on the same boat, so they couldn't watch Su Xianchu take risks alone. Liu Bu said tremblingly, "What should we do?" "Follow him. What if that kind of thing appears around us?" Luo Zinayu said fearfully, and she followed him, followed by Wang Lei. Seeing that he was left alone, Liu Bu became even more frightened. He whispered, "Wait for me." Ren Xiaosu said from behind Su Xianchu, "Once you find that you can't match her, use your gray shadow to trap her and buy us time to focus our fire on her." Su Xianchu, Ren Xiaosu, and Yang Xiaojin all had guns on them. This was their strongest means of attack for the time being. If this woman in white was not afraid of bullets, then there was nothing we could do. Su Xianchu whispered, "Okay. I'll leave my back to you. Watch out for your surroundings." Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. Perhaps the people in the fortress had not experienced the life in the market town, so they were more likely to trust others than the refugees. In the market town, someone had to watch over you at night. People who grew up in this environment would never leave their backs to others. Is this the difference between a market town and a fortress? The three people approached the woman in white cautiously, but the closer they got, the more they felt strange. Originally, Ren Xiaosu was crouching, because this posture was the easiest to exert force, but now he stood up slowly. What the hell is this? Su Xianchu was also confused. He drove the gray shadow to swagger towards the woman in white and picked her off the tree directly. This is a tattered female plastic doll, which seems to be inflatable. Ren Xiaosu walked to Su Xianchu and looked at it for a long time. "What is this?" "I don't know," Su Xianchu shook his head. None of them had seen this thing, so they all said they didn't know it, but it looks very shabby. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Isn't it something in the barrier?" "I haven't seen it in the barrier," Su Xianchu denied again. Everyone fell into deep thought at the doll. They were a little amused. Such a broken thing actually scared them just now. It was not until they got closer that they realized something was wrong. "Wait, there's something under the tree." Ren Xiaosu accidentally saw an iron box at the gnarled tree roots. Ren Xiaosu poked the rusty iron box with a dagger, but it had already rotted beyond recognition. The dagger just touched it and it crumbled into a pile of debris. There were a few reddish pieces of paper in the iron box. When the iron box broke, the paper turned into powder along with the iron box. In a blink of an eye, only one object was left in the iron box. It was a piece of green plastic, or two pieces of plastic wrapped together a piece of green paper. The green paper was painted with crooked and mysterious patterns like tadpoles. This. Su Xianchu stared at the plastic sheet in Ren Xiaosu's hand for a long time. Is this something left by human civilization before the disaster? Or is it both? The degradation time of plastic is as high as hundreds of years, and that's the time it takes to be buried underground, so everything else has decayed, but this can still be preserved. But what is this strange pattern? Is there any secret hidden? Yang Xiaojin also frowned and wondered. "Do you think this thing looks like a map?" Liu Bu and others who had already arrived said, "There are turning symbols in the square pattern. It looks like a maze." Su Xianchu and Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. Could this be the map of the mysterious city in Jingshan? "Hey," Luo Zinayu said, "look, there are words on it." Because of decay, the plastic sheet has become dilapidated and yellowed, but after Luo Zinayu's reminder, everyone still noticed that there was a line of small words under the mysterious pattern. Ren Xiaosu read it out carefully. "Please scan the QR code to pay." The group of people were all confused. What is the QR code? Who should I pay? Why do I have to pay first to pass the maze? Because of the interruption of civilization, some information about the civilization before the disaster is unknown to everyone. Some were abandoned by humans because they were useless, and some were broken in the dark survival era. Everyone has never seen these things in the fortress or the market town, so its purpose has become a mystery. Anyway, it's not a maze map. Ren Xiaosu looked at Su Xianshu. Are you sure that's some mysterious city, where there's the mystery of evolution? Then how can we explain the changes in Jingshan now? Su Xianshu said. That's right. Ren Xiaosu said, there are always secrets hidden in the mountains, but I always feel that cities and the like may not be that mysterious. Let's go, we won't know until we see it. Su Xianshu carefully put the QR code into his chest pocket, as if he was afraid of damaging it. Do you still have this broken doll with you? Liu Bu asked. Take it with you, in case it comes in handy, Su Xianshu said. Chapter 74 Fire. Of course, none of Su Xianshu, Ren Xiaosu, and Yang Xiaojun wanted to carry the tattered doll, and the question of whether to carry the doll or not was raised by Liu Bu, so he was decisively given the responsibility of carrying the doll. In fact, Ren Xiaosu and the others felt that the doll might be useless. Although no one knew what it was used for before the disaster, they were not stupid. But since they didn't have to carry it themselves, they just carried it. So Liu Bu was miserable on the way. He was tired enough and had to hold the tattered doll carefully. The worst thing was that everyone hadn't eaten today. Su Xianshu suddenly stopped. Not to mention Liu Bu, Luo Zinayu and the others, even Su Xianshu couldn't bear it anymore. He turned around and said, everyone, find a pine tree and pick pine cones by yourself. Eat something first and then go on your way. For Su Xianshu and the others, the wilderness survival course had just learned to pick pine cones to fill their stomachs. In fact, pine cones are very difficult to peel, and there are not many of them. The pine nuts that can be peeled out of such a big pine cone are not enough to fill the gaps between your teeth, but what else can you eat if not this? Seeing that Ren Xiaosu had no intention of caring about them at all, Ren Xiaosu took a dagger and cut a tree that he didn't recognize next to him, and then milky white sap flowed out from the cut on the tree. Su Xianshu's eyes lit up. Can this be drunk? The others also looked over in surprise, but Ren Xiaosu shook his head and said, most of the milky sap in the woods should not be drunk, because the chance of poisoning is very high. Su Xianshu was puzzled. Then why did you cut this? To put some poison on the dagger, Ren Xiaosu said as a matter of course. The others were immediately confused. What kind of player are you? You even poisoned the dagger. You are really mean. But they didn't dare to despise Ren Xiaosu's insidiousness. After all, they relied on Ren Xiaosu too much along the way. If they got injured someday, they all depended on Ren Xiaosu to suture the wound and apply medicine to treat the disease. Liu Bu, Luo Zinayu, and Wang Lei all had some money on them, just in case they needed to ask Ren Xiaosu for help. They had already realized that when Ren Xiaosu was around, money was very likely to be equal to life. If they offended Ren Xiaosu at this time, Ren Xiaosu might still treat their injuries if they paid him, but after stitching up the wound, Ren Xiaosu would have a kidney on his hand, so what would happen? Liu Bu accidentally fell off the tree while picking pine cones, but fortunately the ground was covered with soft pine needles, so it wouldn't hurt if he fell. His emotion seemed to be on the verge of collapse. It's all the fault of the wolves. Did the barrier say that they went to other mountains? How come they suddenly appeared here? If it weren't for these wolves, we might have returned to the barrier now. As expected, there is an idiom about wolves being in collusion with each other, and wolves are not good things. However, this time Ren Xiaosu disagreed. I have also heard of the idiom wolves being in collusion with each other, but have you really seen a wolf? Everyone else was stunned. Isn't a wolf an animal hanging behind a wolf's butt? This idiom means that the wolf and the wolf harm livestock together. The wolf uses its front legs and the wolf uses its hind legs. It is a metaphor for colluding with each other to do bad things. Well, Ren Xiaosu nodded. Mr. Zhang in the school said the same thing, but I still have the same question. Have you seen a wolf? Liu Bu was stunned. He muttered softly, we are in the barrier, where can we see it? I have seen it, Ren Xiaosu said. It was among the wolves that chased us into the canyon. I saw a wolf when I encountered them last year. What does a wolf look like? Someone asked curiously. A wolf is actually a wolf, Ren Xiaosu said calmly, because it stepped on a hunter's trap and its front legs can't move, so the other wolves carried it on their backs and continued to live with it. Su Xianshu and the others were stunned. When they were in school in the fortress, they learned the term wolf in cahoots. The teacher told them that wolves and wolves were both bad, and also told them which insects were beneficial insects and which insects were harmful insects. But Ren Xiaosu, who was in the wilderness, didn't think so. He heard Zhang Jinglan say that the nomadic people on the grassland once believed in wolves. At that time, he couldn't go to school to listen to classes, so he asked Yan Liming to help ask a question. Don't wolves harm livestock? Why do nomadic people believe in wolves? Mr. Zhang asked back, is the wolf wrong? Yes, wolves eat sheep, and sheep eat grass. No one is wrong. This is the order of species, and it's born this way. Although wolves harm humans, wolves can stick to their disabled counterparts. Can humans do that? Seeing how many people died in this trip to Jingshan because of their companions' neglect. It's not that they are wrong, but Ren Xiaosu sometimes envied the wolf pack. At least they would not be abandoned mercilessly when something happened. Ren Xiaosu didn't care what others thought, and used a dagger to dig the soil at the root of the pine tree. He said, don't use your hands to clean leaves in the wilderness, because there are likely to be scorpions, centipedes and poisonous snakes hiding here. If you disturb them, they will bring you death. This time Ren Xiaosu didn't find anything like scorpions, and he felt a little regretful. After all, scorpions are quite delicious when roasted. Ren Xiaosu wondered if he should catch a few scorpions and centipedes for dinner. While thinking, he dug out some pine rhizomes. If you think there are not enough pine cones, eat pine roots. You can cook them to eat at night. Others looked at Ren Xiaosu in surprise. They always felt that in Ren Xiaosu's eyes, everything seemed to be edible. It was reasonable to let them eat pine nuts before, but now they have to eat pine rhizomes. Is this a food ingredient? This is a building material. But Ren Xiaosu didn't care. He had eaten too many things in the wilderness over the years that other people thought were inedible. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly thought of a question. Are there any places similar to Jingshan near other barriers? I mean those that have suddenly mutated and evolved. Su Xianchu was silent for a moment and said, yes, but they have been controlled by the Spark Company. The Spark Company? Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion, why haven't I heard of it? Does it belong to any consortium? No, it is an independent consortium, and it controls more than 20 barriers, Su Xianchu said, but it is far away from our barrier number 113, so it's normal that you haven't heard of it. What is the place controlled by the Spark Company like? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. Su Xianchu looked embarrassed, as if the information he knew was limited to this. However, it was Yang Xiaojun who spoke up at this time. The place controlled by the Spark Company is very mysterious. Some people say that they have seen huge prehistoric birds in the sky, but the Spark Company is very powerful and suppressed it. Perhaps only the core personnel of the Spark Company know what happened inside. Chapter 75 Prehistoric Birds. When Ren Xiaosu heard Yang Xiaojun talking about the Spark Company, his mind started to work quickly, because this passage contained a lot of information. Su Xianchu obviously didn't know about the news about the Spark Company, which means that Yang Xiaojun was much better than Su Xianchu, a private soldier, in terms of intelligence. Moreover, Yang Xiaojun said, maybe only the core members of the Spark Company know what's inside. Why is it certain that the core members, not the entire Spark Company, know? Yang Xiaojun must have gone to the members of the Spark Company to inquire about the relevant information, but returned in vain. Ren Xiaosu thought that Yang Xiaojun couldn't do this alone, just like he didn't even know how many refuge barriers humans had built now. The largest sequence he had heard of was the refuge barrier number 178. He didn't know about the Spark Company, nor how many consortiums there were. If he wanted to understand the full picture of the world in this era, when communications were not well developed, he must have an organization behind him. Therefore, Yang Xiaojun must belong to a certain organization, but as for where he belongs, it is unknown. Ren Xiaosu is a person who likes to learn and think. At this time, Yang Xiaojun saw Ren Xiaosu's thoughtful expression and immediately stopped talking. Yang Xiaojun was not stupid. She realized that Ren Xiaosu was analyzing the information contained in her previous words. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked, are these two places the only ones known? Yang Xiaojun glanced at him and said, there will be more and more. In the afternoon, everyone except Ren Xiaosu showed signs of fatigue. Liu Bu and the other three ordinary people had blisters on their feet, but they did not dare to fall behind, nor did they dare to ask if they could take a break. Ren Xiaosu drank a bottle of water, and then took a new bottle from a bottle in a shallow stream. The others had no containers and could only find large leaves to hold. Su Xianchu in front had a canteen, And Yang Xiaojun had a bottle of water hidden on her body, so she also had a container. Not to mention Ren Xiaosu, he not only had a bottle, but also the iron cup he brought from home. But Luo Xinyu, Liu Bu, and Wang Lei didn't have any, so Ren Xiaosu and the others walked in front with their hands waving, while Luo Xinyu and the other three behind each held a leaf, looking as embarrassed as they could be. When fetching water, Ren Xiaosu specifically instructed, don't get close to deep rivers, and you must leave as soon as possible if you fetch water from shallow streams. Because when Su Xianshu and the others said that prehistoric birds appeared in the area controlled by the fire company, he remembered a black shadow in the river he encountered when he was fishing before. It was a creature that even other fish in the water were afraid of. Ren Xiaosu even felt a little regretful that he had never seen its true appearance. At dusk, Ren Xiaosu and the others finally found a new cave, but this time the cave was very small, and the 6 people sitting inside seemed a little crowded, but there was no other way. The forest at night was too scary. When everyone huddled together to roast the fire, everyone had a rare sense of security. Perhaps humans would only realize the importance of companions at this moment. Ren Xiaosu looked inside the cave, trying to find traces left by humans, such as someone carved words in the cave last night. But unfortunately, there were no new clues here. Su Xianchu said, if you want to relieve yourself, it's best not to enter the forest to avoid accidents. If a girl wants to relieve herself, we should turn our heads away and let a girl supervise us. This is also for your safety. A group of people chewed the freshly cooked pine rhizomes. Liu Bu remembered the smell of wild boar before and joked to Ren Xiaosu, why don't you make another wish? It would be great if there is another animal that bumps into us. Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, why don't you make a wish? He would not sacrifice Yan Liu's health to exchange food for himself. The pine rhizomes tasted like celery and were not particularly difficult to swallow. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was very careful about his words and deeds, fearing that he would bring disaster to Yan Liu at home. After being retorted by Ren Xiaosu, Liu Bu felt a little embarrassed. Isn't this a joke? If I wanted to make a wish, I would have made it a long time ago. I said that there are animals coming to our doorstep to eat now. Will there be any? As a result, strange noises came from the woods outside the cave at this time, and they seemed to be very dense. Ren Xiaosu and the others subconsciously picked up their guns. The next moment, 3 wild boars, 2 wild cats, 2 snakes, and 7 monkeys emerged from the woods. Needless to say, the wild boars were big, and the wild cats looked like leopards from school books. The monkeys were almost as tall as humans, and they were estimated to be about 1.6 meters tall when they stood up straight. Ren Xiaosu was sure that this was not a luck bonus given by Yan Liu. You know, if these things got together, they might kill a few of them. This was not good luck. Ren Xiaosu stared at the beasts in a daze. Liu Bu, what the hell are you talking about? Liu Bu almost cried, I was just saying it casually. The beasts and humans were in a stalemate, and it seemed that the beasts didn't expect that there would be people here. Ren Xiaosu lowered his voice and said, Liu Bu, tell them that we can eat vegetarian food today, let them go. Liu Bu cried at that time. He looked at the group of beasts outside the cave and said, does what I say work? Well, go away. Originally Ren Xiaosu was just joking, but when Liu Bu said you go, the beasts actually turned around and ran away in other directions. In fact, Ren Xiaosu was not unable to beat them. Although the pistol could hardly cause harm to these animals, he still had the shadow as his biggest trump card. But Ren Xiaosu didn't want to be exposed. Once this thing appeared, Su Xianshu and the others would definitely know that he had a way to copy other people's abilities. It's hard to say what the consequences would be. And if you copied someone's shadow and it turned out to be more powerful than their shadow, it would not look good on their faces. Ren Xiaosu looked back at Liu Bu in surprise. Could it be that this fellow had awakened his luck just like Yan Liu? Exclamation mark. No. Ren Xiaosu looked back at the woods. Something drove these beasts here. Beasts should not get along peacefully with each other. They don't attack each other or us, which means there is some more terrifying shadow oppressing them. They came to this cave for refuge. It seems to be true, Su Xianchu nodded, because we occupied this cave, they went somewhere else. Do you remember, there was also a movement in the woods yesterday evening, but the other party didn't show up and went away. I always thought it was the owner of the voice who created the crisis, but now I think it might also be an animal looking for a cave to hide, Ren Xiaosu recalled. What on earth is in this woods that has forced these indigenous creatures to stay away from their own territory, and even different species can live in peace? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.